Technician Lori Theodorov is suing her sister, 23-year-old homemaker Jennifer Rector, and her fiancé Sean Huff for an unpaid loan and for the return of her property. Jennifer and Sean are countersuing for money from the sale of Lori's house, bank fees, and for putting sugar in their gas tank.
All rise. Yes, case number 247 on the calendar in the matter of Theodorov versus Rector Huff. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Mrs. Theodorov, according to your complaint, the defendant, who is your sister, and the co-defendant, who is her fiancé, owe you some money for several things. First, a loan that you made to them for security deposit when they moved into an apartment. Second, some money for some bills that you loaned them. And finally, for the return or value of some personal property. Personal property consists of some furniture that you claim to have loaned them. And second, a ring set that you say was an heirloom from your mother given to you that you merely loaned to the defendant. Your last name is Huff?
Yes, sir. Ma'am.
In order to propose to your sister, and you were supposed to get it back.
That's correct.
And the defendants say that the money that you did give them was for babysitting for your daughter, that the furniture was furniture that you were going to throw out because you bought new stuff. And as far as the rings are concerned, the rings, your sister said, belongs to your mother, who is still alive, and she returned the rings to your mother. That the case? And then you have a counterclaim. Your counterclaim argues that because of some disagreement that you and your sister had, she has embarked upon a vendetta and put sugar in your gas tank and ruined your bank credit because she locked into your bank credit online and caused you to lose money, lose wages, whatever. Anyway, you have a counterclaim for harassment. You and your sister and her fiancé lived in a house that you owned for a period of time. Is that right?
Yes.
And when was that?
That was January of '03.
And how long had you been living with your sister?
Just from January '03 until
October of '03.
Yes.
What happened with the house?
When they had first moved in, we had, made arrangements for rent. I asked for $100 out of each of their paychecks, which totaled $400 a month. I was lucky to get that.
You lost the house, according to what you wrote in your complaint. When?
In June, I had said, okay, you guys, I will cover the mortgage payment. You guys cover the bills. The bills didn't get covered. In October, I was drowning in debt. I'd just been through a horrible divorce. I just said, I got to sell the house. I got to get out.
And how much money did you clear from the house?
$5,000.
And what did you do with the $5,000?
I paid the deposits on the apartment, rent.
Which deposits?
Both for my apartment and for their apartment.
Is that right?
I have a copy of that check.
Yes.
Partly.
And how much was the deposit on your apartment?
$500.
Why didn't you have your own $500 for security deposit?
Because we had been babysitting for her daughter for the entire year that we lived with her, almost a year. And she was supposed to pay us for that, and she never did. And she told us when she sold the house that she would pay our security deposit and give us $1,000 to pay our first month's rent and to get car insurance in order to clear the debt of watching her daughter.
And you say that never happened?
No.
Okay. How many rent checks do you have there for $400?
None of them are for $400.
We paid $100 out of each one of our paychecks.
Okay. How many $100 checks do you have to the plaintiff?
Approximately 10.
Now, may I see it, please? Of June 18th for $200. Well, so far, that's $1,150 that you have memorialized in rent, and you owe her $3,600 in rent.
Your Honor, during this time, we were a family. Cash kind of flowed back and forth. We never really thought that we would have to...
No. You cannot demonstrate to me that you don't owe her, at the time you moved out of the house, $2,450. Now, what about the other money that you gave them? Because according to your complaint, you gave them other money for bills.
I have another copy of some checks. And receipt. And these are bank. She would call me on my way home from work saying, Lori, the daycare check's going to bounce. Can you please put money in my account? And I always would. Because that's what your family's supposed to do for you, is to help you when you need help.
Well, when are you supposed to stop doing that?
When they hurt you like I've been hurt, I guess. I'll never do it again.
Okay, now let me hear about the furniture. Do you really want to proceed with this furniture? Did you loan them the furniture, or was it furniture that you were going to get rid of?
No, it was not going to get rid of. As a matter of fact, when I asked for the dresser and queen set back, I was going to use it for my roommate when I moved into another home. And she goes, oh, so you'll let your roommate use it, but not your sister. I paid for the freezer. Super Bowl Sunday, we were at Home Depot, and I paid for it.
We paid for half of the freezer, but I do not have proof of that because I gave her cash.
No, she didn't.
Where's the freezer?
It's still on our patio, and we told her she could come get it at any time.
Why
That's
is that
a
on your
lie.
patio? Is that where you kept it?
Yeah, it's a chest freezer. It's the only place it'll fit.
Oh, fine. She's coming to get it. Make sure it's
Okay.
in good
Okay.
shape. She's coming to get it. Now let's get to the ring set.
The ring set that she's claiming isn't hers, was never hers. It was loaned to her by her mother. I have a sworn statement from her mother with a doctor's note as to why she couldn't be here.
I'd like to see it. Okay, your mother who signed this notarized letter. I'll let you read it. Your mother says that she loaned you the rings when you became engaged and then married, and now she's loaned them to your sister, and she certainly expects to have them back.
They're in her possession now.
And they are in her possession now?
Yes, they are.
Okay, fine. So let's forget about the rings. Now, I want you to tell me about your counterclaim.
Okay. On July 3rd, my witness, Kelly Pruitt, saw Lori Theodoroff break into my bank account on her computer upstairs.
Okay, step up. Tell me your name.
Kelly Pruitt.
Miss Pruitt, how do you know these two people?
I worked with Lori Theodoroff at Kaiser Hospital, and we became friends. And I was living with her for 2 months. And on July 3rd, the day before we were moving out, she had confronted me about putting a listening device in Jennifer's apartment.
Put a listening device?
Yes. And had overheard Jennifer and I talking about helping her ex-husband to try to get her daughter, Sarah, so he can have full custody because Lori is not a fit mother.
And so I assume you had an argument.
Yes, she had confronted me and was very upset with me.
And what did you say to her?
It's true. I mean, I couldn't deny it. I do not believe how she treats her daughter is to be a fit mother. It's just not right.
Go ahead.
And so she got on the computer, and there were still bank statements in the computer from when Jennifer and Sean would make payments online. And so she charged over $1,000 worth of money online so their rent check would bounce.
Did you say anything to her when you found that she broke into her sister's account?
I said, why are you doing this?
And what did
They
she
could lose
answer?
their home. You're hurting Jennifer, not only Jennifer, but Sean and their son.
And what did she say?
She said, I wonder what else I can do. And then that's when she said maybe I could put gas in her sugar tank, and laughed about it and said, I wonder what else I can find out to do to hurt them.
Do you recall going into your sister's bank?
No. I don't even know their password or their account number. Well, I know now because it's written on the check that I gave you. I don't know. And I really feel that Kelly's lying because I also have a suit against her for money that we moved into this duplex together. I fronted all of the money, $1,600. I was supposed to get the money from her on July 24th. I came home from work. She was moved out. And I'm sure that this is where these lies are coming from.
Okay. Do you have a police report
Yes,
with
I do.
regard to the bank statement?
Yes.
Okay. Can I see it, please?
I also have the payment activity from that day from our bank.
And Kelly agreed to come on here.
When did you say she moved out?
July 24th.
Well,
May I say
really,
something?
just a second. I really have to tell you, Miss Theodoroff, that the dates here don't gel with your statement, because according to you, she moved out the end of July. which is when there was confrontation. She was supposed to get you money, and it wasn't until the end of July you came home and found her gone.
Right.
Right? And subsequently you sued her, which
Yes.
is why you say she's lying about this. Well, but the report date on this to the Sacramento Sheriff's Department is July 4th, which is well before that. So it is unlikely that, since you didn't file a lawsuit against her July 4th, that this testimony today, which is consistent with her police report, was not in retaliation for your lawsuit against her. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I believe so, yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today, Uri Theodorov says her sister Jennifer Rector and her fiancé Sean Huff owe for a loan and for the return of property.
What else? Give me the rest. The gas tank.
The gas tank, she had told, Kelly said, that she wanted to hurt me as badly as possible. And so the Tuesday after she moved into her duplex, my car broke down. Well, Lori had picked me up from the daycare where I was stranded and helped me get my car to a shop. Well, then all of this happened, and I found out about her breaking into my account, and I got very angry. And so because I was angry at her, she called the company, the shop where my car was, and told them not to fix it because I wouldn't be able to pay for it. And then I'd had the car back for 4 days, and I found sugar in my gas tank, and I took it straight to the police station and filed a police report.
I'd like to see the police report.
They picked a partial print, but they could not, it wasn't good enough to...
Right. Okay, so this is your statement. Nobody saw her put sugar in the tank. And I'm sure that you will tell me that you didn't do anything to their gas tank.
No, I did not.
Okay. All right, I have that you owe her $2,200, which is for the bills that she paid for you and the $500 deposit. Ms. Theodorov, I believe that you, as it happens, did exactly what Ms. Pruitt says with regard to the computer. I don't think that they have any proof that you, sufficient proof that you did anything to your sister's gas tank, but I certainly think that I am satisfied with her statement that you did, in fact, go into the computer and mess around with it. And how much did that cost you?
It ended up not costing us very much, only about $50.
Okay.
For canceling checks.
Okay. But as far as I'm concerned, there has to be some penalty for that. You understand me?
Yes.
Yeah. Because you can't do that vindictively. I mean, if you do that, you can go to jail for that. So, on your counterclaim for harassment, I am awarding you $500, which is 10 times the $50 that it cost you to reinstate your bank balance to what it should have been and to remove any penalties that have been placed on your account. You still owe your sister $1,700. Pay her. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,700. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Jennifer needs to learn that she can't mooch off people for the... I mean, that's all she's done her entire life is mooch.
I have seen her hit and pull her daughter's hair and call her stupid and fat.
This has put a black spot on my heart, and I don't know that if somebody came to me and asked for help, if I'd be able to do it.
What makes her such a good liar is she convinces herself that her lies are true well before she tells anyone else.
I mean, I love her. She's my sister. But I don't think I could help her anymore.
If I see her on the side of the road hitchhiking, I'm not going to pick her up because she'll just try to hurt me some more.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Finnegan versus Cooper. Step forward, please.
19-year-old warehouse worker Justin Finnegan is suing 28-year-old student Catherine Cooper for backing into his car. Catherine says Justin was illegally parked.
Mr. Finnegan, it is your claim that Miss Cooper damaged your car by backing into it.
Yes, that is correct.
And you want her to pay for the damage that was done to your car. Miss Cooper says that your car is, or was, I don't know if it's still in existence, an illegally parked piece of junk. Okay, where did this happen, Mr. Finnegan? No, listen to me. I didn't ask you to show me. It's not show and tell. Where did it happen?
We were at the apartment complex.
At an apartment complex?
Yes.
Whose apartment complex?
Her old apartment complex and my witness Matt's apartment complex.
You don't live there?
No, I do not.
What were you doing there?
I was visiting with my friend Matthew.
When?
September 20th.
2004.
Yes, that is correct.
Now you can go over to your chart and show me where your car was.
Okay.
You say your car was parked.
Yes. No, it was still running. I had forgot my wallet, and I was parked right here.
Well, that says driveway. It's written there, driveway. So you left your car running in the driveway. Where had your car been parked, Mr. Finnegan?
My car was parked right here.
That says friend's car.
When we had left, no one was there. That was where I was parked.
Okay, so that space, you were occupying that space, and then you backed out into the driveway, left your car running, and went back inside to get a wallet?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, now my question to you is, why didn't you pull back into the parking space?
Because we were just running in real quick.
Not we. Don't say we. You were driving?
Yeah.
It's your car, not we
That's
were
correct.
running in. Who ran in? How many people
I
did it
ran
take to
in-
get a wallet?
I ran in real quick to grab the wallet.
So you were driving. So my question to you is, why didn't you pull back into the parking space?
I wasn't going to take that long. I was just running and grab the wallet and turn around.
It was long enough for somebody to hit your car.
She was backing out.
It was long enough for somebody to hit your car. Then what happened, Mr. Finnegan?
I had grabbed the wallet, turned around, came out the front door, and we started yelling because she was coming close to the car. And
Who's we?
me and my witness, Matt, and I had another friend outside, and we were all yelling, "Watch out, watch out."
Just a second. Where was this witness?
He,
not we.
Matt
He.
was standing right here, right outside of the
He was
car
standing on the grass. What was he doing there?
He had got out to talk to someone.
And she hit your car.
Yes, that is correct.
All right, show me.
Okay.
What's this house? Picture of a house.
That one is a picture of the pole.
What does a pole have to do with this?
I was just showing that she has broke that pole several times with her vehicle.
I want to see a picture of your whole car, sir.
The whole car? We don't have one of the full car.
Why not?
Because I just took a picture of
What's
only
this
the
plural?
jet.
What's a we?
Sorry.
I want to see a picture of the whole car. She says that this is a gray car that you've painted with house paint. Looks like that to me, or this little thing over here, because that has to go to your damages, sir. Is this car painted with house paint?
No, it's primer. It was red.
Primer. Who painted it with primer?
It was primered when I had bought it. I was getting ready for paint.
How long have you had it?
I had it for a year.
Did you ever have it painted?
I haven't had it yet. It's sitting in the shop right now.
Why?
Because I was rebuilding the car.
All right, Miss Cooper, I'll hear you.
Okay.
That's part of the 20th of September, 2004. You backed into his car.
Yes, I did. And right after that happened, I got all his friends. There was more than that many people out, and they surrounded me, and they were yelling at me and calling me all kinds of horrible names. And I told them, fine, I'll just pay you. I was on my way to work. So I left after that. I needed to get out of there. There was a bunch of teenagers, and they were all partying. There's a lot of traffic in and out of the place all the time. And they all started harassing me, and the harassment never ended.
Okay, so you backed into his car.
Yeah.
You didn't see it?
I didn't see it. There was a car parked next to me. I was parked in my normal parking spot, and
I see where you say your car was parked.
Okay.
Now, what happened then, Mr. Finnegan? She didn't pay you for it, is that right?
Yes, she had asked me to bring her an estimate, and she would make payments for it.
Fine. Did you bring her an estimate?
Yes, I did.
Was it a reasonable estimate?
Yes.
What was it for?
It was $670.20.
How much did you pay for the car?
I paid $2,000 for the car.
What year, make, and model car is it?
It's a 1990 Honda Civic.
Did you buy it in primer coat?
Yes, I did.
And you paid $2,000 for it?
That is correct.
Somebody saw you coming. So you gave her this estimate. Go ahead. What happened
next? And I had waited. She had said she was waiting on a check, and I had said, okay. And I had came back to her, and she had said, I don't have the money. I just started a new job. And I had waited another week or so, and I had came back, and I followed up each week about the money, and every time it was a different story.
Why don't you tell Officer Bird here what you did, sir?
I had asked her about the money, and she said, well, I'm moving, and I don't have the money. And so, out of anger, I got mad, and I went and I took a baseball bat to the back window.
Of what?
Of her vehicle.
Of her car?
That's correct.
Who was in the car at the time?
Her daughter was in the car.
Her baby was in the car.
And I did not know that at the time.
No, I told them.
Shh, 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 shh. Sorry. Got it?
Oh, yeah.
You got your anger out. And you were arrested.
That's correct.
And you pled guilty to vandalism.
It was criminal mischief.
And you were forced to pay restitution.
That is correct.
What do we think? Petrie Hawkins Bird. Evidently, Mr. Finnegan understands how to go to small claims court and file papers.
Apparently.
He even knows how to oversee drawing diagrams.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Finnegan, you think I'm sympathetic to you, sir?
No, ma'am.
You're right. That you're right about. And why do you think I'm not sympathetic to you, Mr. Finnegan?
Because of what I did was not right.
Correct.
In any way, shape,
One
or
thing
form.
was an accident, at least partially caused by your own negligence for leaving your car running in a parking lot where there are children around. Child could have run into the car, driven, hurt themselves, hurt a lot of other people because you couldn't take the time. You must have been off to a very, very important corporate meeting so that you couldn't pull this car back into the parking space, turn off the ignition, and take the key when you went inside to get your wallet. So at least you were partially responsible for what happened to your own piece of junk.
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
And instead of acting like a grown-up and saying, well, she's not paying me, that's not the right thing to do, maybe it'll cost me $50 to have my car fixed. Instead, you take a baseball bat to her car with her baby in the car sitting in the back seat and smash the window.
Yes, ma'am.
You think that a court is going to be sympathetic to you?
No, ma'am.
You're right. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. They step out.
They have fight clubs, bunch of teenagers beating each other up all over the place, bleeding all over the parking lot.
And, you know, we're teenagers. We have lots of friends, you know.
I know that there's drug activity going on around there.
We meet up there, and then, you know, we all leave together.
We said, my daughter's in the car, Justin, because I saw him come around with a baseball bat, and I knew he meant business then.
I never wanted to be mean or, you know, have problems with her. I just wanted, you know, what was mine.
I was just really scared, just shaky and scared, hoping that the cops...
He had other priorities, smoking crack. Everyone has their problems, but I don't anymore. It's very upsetting because I got walked on. I helped her too. It goes both ways.
Rista Christine Otis is suing her ex-boyfriend, waiter Peter Manzoni, for his share of their credit card debt. Peter says Christine is not getting any more money from him.
Now, this is case number 563 on the calendar in the matter of Otis versus Manzoni. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat.
Miss Otis, you and Mr. Manzoni have a child together. We're in a relationship, I assume, not married to each other, lived together for a period of time. According to your complaint, during the time that you lived together, you racked up a substantial credit card debt. And at the time that you separated, it was agreed, according to you, that you would take this substantial credit card debt and slice it in half, each of you assuming half of the debt. Card was in your name?
Correct.
That was probably your second mistake, so that all the debt would have been yours unless Mr. Manzoni agreed to pay half of it, which he did. He did pay for a while. He paid a substantial portion of it and then stopped.
That's right.
Mr. Manzoni says, I paid enough. That's pretty much your defense, right?
That's correct.
When did you separate?
Christmas of 2004. 2003, sorry.
1203. Do you have in that pile of material there the credit card bill as of December of 2003?
Yes.
I'd like to see it.
It's 6 credit cards.
And they're all in your name?
All in my name.
Didn't he have any credit cards?
No, none.
Why
Peter
didn't you have any credit cards, sir?
I never had established credit.
So what happened, Mr. Manzoni? You paid, according to you, almost $4,000.
That's correct, Your Honor. I never agreed to split the credit card debt in half with Christine Otis. She and I had an agreement that I would pay back the debt that was solely spent for my purchases, things that I needed to get done or things that I come across where I needed some money.
How long were you living together?
We were living together roughly, give or take, 14 months.
Is what you're telling me that you used these credit cards for that 14 months that you were together for separate purposes?
We used some of the credit cards for joint things, dinners, foods, things of that nature. And then there was times where Christine used the money solely for herself. And then there was times, very few times, where I used the credit cards for myself. A couple things I needed to get taken care of, and I didn't have credit.
Like what?
I needed to get a tooth fixed. I needed to pay a parking ticket.
So how much were your bills in total, sir?
My total bills for the expenses that I accumulated were well under $2,500.
Well under?
Well under.
Your Honor, may I speak for a moment?
In a minute. Would you explain to me, Mr. Manzoni, if your bills were well under $2,500, and you just told me that that's what you agreed to pay, things that were specifically for you, and that's what you agreed to give her. So that's what you're telling me?
That's correct.
Then can you tell me why, in this sworn deposition, you paid her $3,575, substantially more than the $2,500 that you alleged that you owed? That's a question, so it requires an answer.
The reason why I did that, Your Honor, was because I did know Christine was struggling at the time of our separation. She did need money for the credit cards, and she did not have a stable income at the time. And I felt that it was fair that it would be okay for me to spend $275 a month. I didn't have an exact number in my head, but I had a year time that I was going to pay her money. It just equated to that amount.
Does that sound like a lot of double talk to you?
Just a little.
After you left, Mr. Manzoni, how much support were you sending her? Does she have custody of the child?
No, we have no custody matters, Your Honor. We just split the baby.
Who does the child live with?
It's 50-50.
He stays with me 5 nights a week.
How much child support do you pay, sir?
That's a little misleading, ma'am.
I'm just asking you a question.
I pay no child support. I have my son 50% of the time. I have him from 5 in the morning till 5 in the afternoon.
How many days a week?
Monday through Friday. And I have him also Monday night and Tuesday night all day, all night.
Okay, so you watch him while she works?
That's correct, ma'am.
How do you pick him up?
I drop him off and pick him up.
She works in the we live very close in the downtown area.
And what kind of work do you do?
I work nights at a restaurant. I'm a waiter.
So you've worked it out reasonably?
Correct.
What kind of work do you do?
I am a coffee barista.
A what?
A coffee barista. I own a little coffee stand downtown San Diego.
I never heard of it. A coffee barista?
That's right.
What does that mean?
It means I make coffee.
I make coffee too, but I didn't know it was a profession. Coffee barista. Who are you, sir?
Your Honor, I'm an attorney, and at the time that they split, a mutual friend asked if I would talk to the two of them.
What's your name?
Dean Janis.
Did you talk to Mr. Janis?
I believe yes.
You did?
Yes.
At the time of your separation?
Yes.
Did you both speak to Mr.
Yes.
Janis? So at the time you were trying to mediate a resolution?
Correct, Your Honor. I was asked to give them my impression of what I thought their legal responsibilities would be.
So that each of them knew that you were not representing either one, you were there merely to give advice.
Correct.
I did not know that, Your Honor. I thought she had sought legal help.
Okay, so you thought that this was her attorney?
Correct.
Oh, perfect. So you're not violating any privilege that he might later claim, right?
That's correct.
Was the wrong answer, Mr. Manzoni. See, if you had said to me, I thought he was representing me, then you could say, listen, I don't want him to breach any confidence. That's privileged information.
Oh, I changed my answer.
Well, you can't. Too late.
All right.
Too late. Gotta be quick.
All right. Next
Gotta
time.
be quick. Next time. You see? And you don't mind him, I assume, relating the conversation that you have because he thought he was your lawyer.
That's right.
There we go. See how perfect it is, Mr. Janis?
Wonderful.
People are constantly stepping on their own ties.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Notice says her ex-boyfriend Peter Manzoni owes for half of her credit card bills. Peter says he's paid what he owes.
Now, tell me about the conversation that you had.
Well, Your Honor, they had several different issues at stake, but the relevant point, I believe, Your Honor, is that during our conversation, he admitted to me that all of the debt on the credit cards was incurred for their joint living expenses, and he indicated to me on the phone with Christine that he was going to pay her for half of that plus any interest that accrued.
Your Honor, that conversation never took place, and that doesn't make any kind of sense, what he just said.
It makes perfect sense to me, Mr.
Well, to me, that's the first
Manzoni.
time I've ever even heard agreeing upon splitting the debt 50-50.
Just a second. It makes perfect sense to me, Mr. Manzoni. That's what she says. You had accrued during the course of the 14 months you were living together when you had no credit card debt in excess of $15,000. Now you're separating and you're trying to work out an amicable resolution because you have a child together, and two civilized people decide to speak to an attorney just to talk, if you can't talk between yourselves, to talk to a third party about certain issues so that you can resolve this. And certain of your issues you did resolve very well. You managed a co-parenting situation which allows each of you to work, to support yourself, and to pay half the support for your child. The only outstanding issue was this $15,000 debt that could encumber one person for a very long time or two people for half the time. So what Mr. Janus says makes perfect sense to me.
Your Honor, like I said earlier, the debt is not solely $15,000 between us.
Just a second. You said you paid a dental bill.
And I paid Christine Otis back for that money.
That's with part of the money that you say you paid out of this $3,725, right?
That's correct.
You didn't say as soon as you got the dental bill, here, in addition to anything that I might owe you on the card for our joint dinners and going out and trips that we might take and anything else, here's the $750 for the dentist. That's
Absolutely.
Totally separate.
No, ma'am, I absolutely did say that.
Oh, I don't believe that for a second, Mr. Manzoni.
At the time, I was paying all the bills.
Not for a second.
Your Honor, I was paying all the bills, making all the credit card payments, making the truck payments, and paying the rent. I was paying everything. Christine was just spending money like a loose cannon, not me. Everything's in her name. I never forced her once to buy anything.
That's what happens, my dear, when you live together and play house. In any event, I find that you did, in fact, at the time that you separated, agree to pay half the amount of money that was accrued on the credit card. You did pay $3,575. I assume you have proof that you paid that, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Let me see it.
Well, it's just a piece of paper that Christine and I have had a joint statement account.
Let me see it.
Her paper actually has a lot less writing on it. It might be a little better for understanding. But it is the same paper.
Why are you showing me this paper, sir?
Because that's the paper that we had established, that I had made payments for the last 13 months.
So, Mr. Manzoni, what I don't understand is you start off with a balance on both of your pieces of paper of about $7,500.
I don't understand.
What do you mean you don't understand? What word didn't you understand? You started out with a balance. So she's claiming that you each started out with $7,500 that you were supposed to pay off. That's the evidence that you just gave me, that you were supposed to start out paying $7,500, and you say...
She just made that calculation on a computer. She just put those numbers on that piece of paper. She could have put any number on there.
This is your evidence. You just handed it to me.
That's her evidence. That's the evidence she gave me that I paid, Your Honor.
So you're making a big mistake. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,925. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy did what she thought was fair. She thinks that I still owe Christine Otis another $3,900 or so.
I think it was fair, and I came here to get my money back, and I guess that's what I did.
We had never made an arrangement of paying half the debt. That's what I couldn't get across to Judge Judy.
He just decided he didn't want to pay anymore, and that was it.
We did pay a lot of bills together.
Maybe he's not happy that I'm doing so well for myself.
And then also just foods, and we also had some medical expenses, things of that nature.
I would think that he'd be happy, and I'm not sure. I guess he's not.
If I had to pay, I had to pay. That's all.
But we don't really have a choice. We have a 2-year-old together, and we have to see each other every day, so there'll never be an end.
Ruth Irwin is suing her granddaughter's ex-boyfriend, 24-year-old sales associate David Berlin, for babysitting fees, child care costs, and a broken door. David is countersuing for mental anguish and the return of his TV.
It's case number 547 on the calendar in the matter of Irwin versus Berlin. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat.
Miss Irwin, Mr. Berlin is your granddaughter's ex-boyfriend?
Right, Your Honor.
And you claim he owes you some money for babysitting for his daughter?
Yes, Your Honor, it was a copay.
Just a second. And then for some furniture that you purchased, which enabled him to get custody of his daughter from a previous relationship.
Yes, you're right.
Okay. Your granddaughter and the defendant have a child together?
Yes, Your Honor.
And in addition to that, sir, you have a child from another relationship.
That's correct.
The child from the other relationship is how old?
2.5.
And there came a time when you were contacted with regard to gaining custody of this child because the mother was a drug abuser?
Yes, ma'am.
When was that?
I believe it was November of 2004.
And at that time, where were you living?
At that time, I was living in a place in Portland, Oregon.
Who were you living with?
It was with Jennifer at the time.
Jennifer is Miss Irwin's granddaughter?
Correct.
And your child with her?
Correct.
When you were contacted about taking your daughter, did you at any time move in with Mrs. Irwin?
Basically, they moved in with us, and then we had to get a...
Who's they?
Ruth Irwin and also her son, Sean, moved in with us, and then we had to get a bigger place because I was basically getting custody of my daughter.
Now, what arrangement did you make with Mrs. Irwin as far as babysitting for your daughter while you worked? I assume you were working?
Correct.
Go ahead.
The arrangement was basically that she was going to watch my kid while I was at work, and at first it was okay, no payment involved. After a while it became that she wanted to get paid for it, which I could see, it's understandable. So I went to the DHS office and...
What's DHS?
Department of Human Resources.
So that you didn't earn enough to pay for child care, so you were getting state subsidized care.
Correct.
And the agreement was, Miss Irwin, with the state, was that you were going to get $300 a month.
No, Your Honor.
How much a month?
The state did not pay me no $300 a month.
How much did they pay you?
The state paid me, on an average, $192 a month, and David was to match a copay, which he got extra food stamps to compensate.
Just a second, I'm speaking. You say he was to give you $169
yes.
a month? For how many months did you babysit?
4 months.
Did she babysit for 4 months?
This is correct.
Okay. In the contract that you had with the state, the contract said that you were to make a co-payment, right?
Right.
You did not make the co-payment.
Right, but that's because we had a verbal agreement to not pay.
Oh, well, I want to hear about the verbal agreement you had with Mrs. Irwin not to pay her $169 a month.
Okay. Basically, the verbal agreement was that I was going to use this money that I didn't pay her towards extra bills around the house.
What bills?
Such as water, sewage, power, rent.
So what you're telling me is you paid the water bill?
Part of it.
No, you're...
Of course you paid part of the water bill, sir. You were living there.
Correct.
I would expect you to pay part of the water bill. What else?
I paid cable, power.
Just a second. You paid it the whole thing or part of it?
Half of it, actually. She paid a quarter.
That's a lie.
Just a second.
That is a bull-faced lie, David.
Miss Irwin.
You knew
Miss Irwin, do you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, Your Honor, I do. But
good.
Will I get my opportunity to talk?
No, not unless I ask you a question. This is not a tea dance. You don't open up your mouth and start to talk to him unless I ask you a question. Do we understand each other, Miss Irwin?
Yes, I do.
Good. Now,
but this man's lying.
You want to walk out of here?
No, Your Honor.
So, you paid for what you minimally were supposed to pay for. Why would she agree that you not pay the $169 a month, Mr. Berlin, if you were paying only those portions of the bills that were rightfully yours?
Because, Your Honor, the verbal agreement we had in the beginning was that the $169 that I was to pay for the copay was only to be verbally not paid if she was to be paid by the state.
Mr. Berlin, that's a lot of double talk you just gave me.
Okay.
During the time that you were staying with Miss Irwin, did you have a substance abuse problem?
Not at all.
Not at all?
No.
Ever? Did you ever have a lie? Shh. Miss Irwin? Miss Irwin? Did you ever have a substance abuse problem, Mr. Berlin?
Nope. I drank alcohol every now and then, but that's it. Not a problem.
It was never a problem?
No, ma'am.
Okay. She babysat for you for 4 months times $169 equals $676, sir, because that was the agreement that you signed with the state. Now, let's get to the next part. The next part is Miss Irwin says that she bought furniture for your child, not the child that you share with her grandchild, but for your child, because otherwise the state would not give you your child.
Right.
So she went out and she purchased furniture with an understanding that you would repay her.
May I say something, Your Honor?
Did she buy the furniture?
She did, but she
How
went
much
out
did
and
she
bought
pay
it.
for the furniture?
I don't know the exact amount.
How much did you pay for the furniture, Miss Irwin?
The total amount of the furniture. I'm sorry, Your Honor, I've got a cold and I've got a lot of paperwork here that we need to resolve. Because
no, we don't have a lot of paperwork. All we have is how much did you pay for the furniture, Miss Irwin?
Well, I am not a calculator. I did not add it all up. I listed each article. I bought a potty chair for the child from Walmart.
How much?
$7. A bed and dresser at a yard sale. The bed was $30. The dresser was $25. Very nice ones.
Go ahead.
A small television for her to watch cartoons on, which there was no cable put in that room for that child to be able to watch any television.
Miss Irwin, I asked you a question. I don't expect you to talk to him.
And $65 worth of clothes.
$127.
Right.
May I say something, Your Honor? She went out and purchased all that stuff without ever consulting me about that.
Did you need that stuff for your daughter to come and live with you?
Not necessarily, no.
What do you mean, not necessarily? She didn't need a bed?
Of course she needed a bed, but I could have got...
She didn't need a dresser?
Yes, ma'am.
They would not have allowed the child to move in with you. You have one parent who is neglecting the child. They're not going to allow a child to come and move in with you unless they see that you have the provisions for the child. Correct?
Correct.
So somebody was going to have to furnish the child with a bed and a dresser.
Right.
Who would that be?
I could have done it, Your Honor.
But you didn't.
I would have done it on my next paycheck.
So when you got your next paycheck, you should have given her back the money. She bought it. $127, very cheap, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good.
Your Honor, could I say one thing?
No.
Well, it's very important to know...
I don't want to hear you. So far, you're not losing.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Irwin says her granddaughter's ex-boyfriend owes for babysitting co-payments. Ruth says the state paid its share, and now David needs to pay his.
Miss Irwin, you're suing him for the furniture that you bought, the children's clothing that you bought, and the $169 times 4 that he was supposed to pay in a copay. So far, you're not losing. There's no need for me to hear you, except irritate me.
But I have some very important evidence here, Your Honor, that needs to be said. I threw this guy out of the house.
I'm not interested. You want to tell somebody about why you threw him out of the house? Go on Jerry Springer. This case involves two things. Look at me. Stop looking at your papers. It involves two things and two things only. Whether he's responsible for the $169 for 4 months, the answer is yes. And whether he's responsible for the baby furniture, and the answer is yes. Now, you, sir, have 30 seconds or less to explain to me your counterclaim, which, if I get it correctly, you say because she threw you out of the house, uncross your arms. Because she threw you out of the house, you lost custody of your daughter. So you want all kinds of pain, suffering, and anguish. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Go to it.
Okay, well, first of all, she threw me out of the house because she claimed that I was depressed, so I went to go check it out. I called, and she says to never come back again. So basically, after that, I was basically homeless, and I had to say that I couldn't take care of my daughter because I was basically homeless. So, because of that, she still has a lot of my property, such as this TV right here in this picture, which I have a receipt, which I bought a new one with.
Which anguish is that? In what category does the TV come under mental anguish?
Basically, she still has some of my property. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Well, is your lawsuit mental anguish, or is it your property?
It's both, Your Honor.
Well, let's start with the anguish.
Okay. Well, the anguish basically is she made me lose custody of my daughter.
No.
And
she didn't make you lose custody of your daughter. The state took the child away.
Well, she basically kicked me out. That's how I lost custody of my daughter. I would have kept having custody of my daughter if I stayed in that place.
She didn't want you there anymore.
I understand that, Your Honor, but I was living there, and there was no reason why I should have been kicked out in the first place.
Why do you think she kicked you out, Mr. Berlin?
Because she thought I had depression, which I did, because she made life very unbearable there for me.
So she thought you were suffering from depression. She didn't want you in the house anymore, and you acknowledge that you were suffering from depression, but you say you were suffering from depression because she was making life intolerable for you with the house.
Absolutely. She's a very bitter woman, Your Honor.
Bitter. Well, then I wouldn't want to live with her, sir. I don't want to hear anything unless I ask you a question. Do you understand? Good. If she's making your life unbearable, you take your child and you move. That's what you do.
Yes, ma'am.
You don't sue for it.
Okay.
She's not responsible for keeping you in her house, nor is she responsible for the state taking your child away. Is the child now back with her mother?
Yes, ma'am.
So the state had an option of giving the child back to her mother, who was a drug abuser, or you, who was depressed. Is that right?
I believe so,
That was the choice. That was some choice. All right. Now let's get to the television set. May I see a photograph, please, of the television set?
This is the actual picture of the television set right here, but the back of it is a receipt that I replaced it with. A new television because, well, basically I gave up hope of receiving my television again.
Listen to me. Yep. I want to see the bill where you purchased this television set.
I don't have that, Your Honor.
When did you purchase it?
It was October of 2003.
Okay. You have that television set, Ms. Irwin?
No, I don't, Your
Where
Honor.
is it?
Yes, you do.
No, I do not have the TV, Your Honor, because that was purchased between him and my granddaughter. They each shared that cost.
Just answer my question, Miss Irwin. Where is the television?
You know, it's in the living room.
Okay. Just a second. Where's your granddaughter?
In the living room, probably watching it. She paid for half of it.
Just a second.
No, she did not.
Just a second.
You got proof?
Miss Irwin, you don't understand what I'm saying to you, madam. Put the papers down. Don't speak to him.
He's a parasite, Your Honor.
Don't speak to him. And only answer my questions. Other than that, I don't want to hear you. Now, Mr. Berlin, you don't have a receipt for this television set indicating that you purchased it?
No, ma'am, I bought it.
You don't get it. You have to give her $803, Mr. Berlin. That is for 4 months of copay on the child care and your daughter's furniture, which she purchased, which she has no particular use for, with the understanding that the reason she purchased it was because the state was not going to permit you to retain or to gain custody of your 2-year-old unless you had a bed and a dresser, which she furnished and which, according to you, you were going to purchase with your next paycheck. And when you got your next paycheck, you should have given her the money back for it. That's the decision of the court. And for your mental anguish, you get zippo, nada. You lost custody of your child because you were ill-equipped to take care of her.
Your
That's
Honor.
the only reason. And unless you're quiet, you're going to get nothing. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $803. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Got what you deserve, David. Nothing. Totally nothing. David didn't get called out for his misbehavings, but justice was served.
She's a very bitter old woman. She needs to come to her senses and stop being so bitter.
It's his virgin. I'm not an alcoholic. I drink a fifth a week.
Stay away from this woman over here.
You know, he's called until I'm committing suicide. Final thoughts is he'd do the state a blessing.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Cash versus Cash. Step forward, please.
Homemaker Deidre Cash is suing her niece, 24-year-old retail supervisor Leslie Katie Cash, for unpaid babysitting fees and the cost to replace a lost camera. Katie claims she replaced the camera with a better one.
Miss Cash, this is your niece.
Yes.
According to your complaint, your niece
Yes.
owes you for some child care that you did for her. And in addition, she owes you money for a camera that she borrowed.
Correct.
That she lost. Your niece says that you're just being greedy about the extra money for child care, and she lost the camera. Who is this?
This is my friend Karen. She served the court documents on my niece, and my niece made a statement to her whenever she did that.
What was the babysitting arrangement for your great niece?
Well, the arrangement was that I was to provide child care for Katie while she worked, and that she was receiving the Welfare to Work program. They were going to pay me for the maximum that they would was 40 hours a week. Well, I had Katie's daughter in my care for anywhere from 50 to 55 hours a week. So the agreement was that she was going to pay me $25 a week for that extra time.
How much were you getting from the state a week for the 40 hours?
It was $512.55 per month. And then the first week and a half or so that I watched her daughter, the welfare program would not cover because her daughter's father was living in the home, and he could have provided care because he was not working, but he refused to do that.
Why?
That's why I left him, Your Honor.
That was a good clue. That kind of attitude was a good clue. Probably a very good decision.
So because there was a parent in the home, they would not provide for the child care. So for the first week and a half, I had asked Katie to pay me $100 a week, which was comparable to what the welfare would have paid me had they paid it.
Well, how much was she earning?
I'm not sure.
How much were you earning?
I was only working about 25 hours a week at $7.25 an hour.
It's very hard for her to pay you $100 a week. In any event, what we're really talking about is the $25 a week in addition to the $100 a week. What about that? Did you make that arrangement with your aunt?
I did make that arrangement, but I also babysat her son for her when she needed him babysat, which I assumed was being taken off of the bill.
Did you ever have a discussion with your niece about her babysitting for your son?
No, and she only watched my son twice for about 4 or 5 hours each time. That was all.
How many weeks, Miss Cash, did you watch, what's your daughter's name?
Lauren.
Lauren.
I watched Lauren for, I know, at least 22 weeks.
Okay, would you step up, please? Sure. Tell me your name.
It's Karen Rogers.
Ms. Rogers, you served the small claims papers on Ms. Cash?
Yes, I did. That's correct.
And my understanding that she made a statement to you when you served those papers?
Yes, when I served them to her, she had stated that she was going to pay her out of her tax return to Deidre.
Did you make that statement?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Well, that's sort of acknowledging this debt.
I acknowledged that I owed her some money, but not the sum of $850.
Well, how much do you think you owe her?
I assumed that I owed her approximately $150.
What about the camera?
The camera, I did lose it at my best friend's wedding, and I replaced it with this camera. She refused to accept it because it was not a model that she wanted.
Well, why did you think that you could give her any camera?
I asked her if it was okay. She told me it was. After she'd used it several times, she didn't like the way it worked. She gave it back to me and told me not to worry about it. After I did offer to replace the camera appropriately for her if she did not like that model.
Oh, so you did it. Tell her I'll replace it.
I told her I would, and she told me not to worry about it.
Is that right?
No, ma'am. I never told her not to worry about it. She said that she would get me another one as soon as she could afford it because she wanted to keep that one for herself.
Well, according to you, you're requesting $150 to replace the
Right,
camera.
well, that's for the camera, the carrying case, and it also had rechargeable batteries in it as well. So that's for the whole setup, not just the camera.
Well, 22 weeks times 25 is $550, and $150 for the camera is $700. Does that sound right to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $700. That's all.
Thank you.
You may step out.
I had tried to contact her several times. She did not pay her phone bill, so I had no way of calling her.
I'm upset that it had to come to this.
I think the relationship between my niece is pretty much non-existent at this point.
Next case.
All parties in the matter of Yuan versus Todd Lamb. Step forward, please.
Mechanic Stanley Ewan is suing his neighbors, Vanessa Lamb, her son, 11-year-old Javante Peck, Victoria Todd and her son, 11-year-old Devon Todd, for throwing eggs at his apartment. The kids say Stanley threatened them with a shotgun.
Mr. Ewan, it is your claim that these boys egged your apartment.
Yes, they did.
Caused some damage, and you want to be compensated for the damage.
Yes, I do.
And their mothers say that you just don't like children, especially their children, and that you threatened the boys with a shotgun, and that there wasn't any damage to your apartment. Right?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Ewan, you live in an apartment complex?
Yes.
Do these boys and their families live in the same complex?
No.
Okay. Now, when did this incident happen with the eggs?
June 28th, about 9:30 in the morning.
Tell me what happened at 9:30 in the morning, Mr. Ewan.
Well, at 9:30 in the morning, I had a friend over. We're watching a ball game. Heard a commotion on the other side of our fence, and there was about 8 kids fighting and harassing, saying bad names and stuff. I went
saying
out.
Bad names to whom, sir?
Well, to each other. You know,
So they were calling each other names and
fighting, pushing, shoving.
Now, was this in your complex or was this in their complex?
It was in their complex.
Okay.
I went outside and told them to break it up and go home, and they did so.
Did you have a shotgun?
No.
Did you say anything else to them?
Not at that time. I went back in. About 10 minutes later, 4 of them came back and threw the eggs. Came
Where
over the
were they
hedge.
when they threw the eggs, sir?
On their side of the property, on the other side of the hedge.
Did you see these 2 boys?
Yes, I did.
Did they throw eggs?
Yes, they did. Got pictures, and I got
I'd like to see the photographs, please. Was your door open, sir?
My sliding door was open, my screen door.
So the eggs got on your carpet.
Got on the carpet, got on the couch, on the front of the couch there,
Okay.
and it also got on the paint.
Do you own this house?
No,
You're a renter.
I rent.
Who paid for the outside cleaning?
I hasn't been cleaned yet. That's just an estimate.
It has not been, but you don't own the outside.
No.
Okay. Why didn't somebody just go out there and hose it off?
I tried to hose it off.
Well, it doesn't look like anybody tried to hose it off, sir, because it's still
Well,
dripping.
after the pictures, I did try to hose it off.
And what happened?
The egg, it was so hot out that day that the egg dried onto it, and when I tried cleaning it off, it stripped the paint off.
Okay. How old are you?
11.
What's your name?
Javante.
And how old are you?
11.
Your name?
Devon.
You remember the day that Mr. Ewan is talking about?
Yes.
Tell me what happened.
All right. We were right over by the fence, and Javante and another kid was fighting.
What were they fighting about?
I can't remember, but they were like arguing. They weren't putting their
What were
hands
you
on.
arguing about, Javante?
We were arguing about who can knock who out and this and that.
So you were talking, I mean, that's not smart. Why were you angry at these other people?
Yeah.
And were they angry at you?
Yep.
And were you calling each other bad names?
Yes.
So Mr. Ewan came out?
Yes.
What did he say?
He said, "You ugly MFers need to stop making all this noise before I go get my shotgun."
So what did you do?
So then all of us boys went over to our houses and got eggs and went over there and threw eggs at his house.
Why did you throw eggs at his house?
Because what he was being racial.
He was being racial?
Yeah.
So that's the way you resolved it. You went over, got some eggs, and you decided to vandalize his house.
Yep.
What'd you do?
I got an egg, and when they started throwing the eggs, he came out. I dropped my egg and ran.
So now I'd like to hear from the mothers. Who wants to speak first? Go ahead.
Okay. As I was getting out my shower, I had about 3 kids run up in my house yelling and screaming where this man put a shotgun on them.
Well, you know that wasn't true. That was a lie.
I wasn't there.
Just a second. But now you know that was a lie.
No, I don't know that.
Sure you do, because Mr. Ewan says it wasn't true, and your boy says it's not true. He says Mr. Ewan didn't pull a shotgun on him. Mr. Ewan told him to get out, or he was going to get a shotgun. Isn't that what you said?
Yeah.
So he didn't pull a shotgun on him. He threatened him. Got it?
I still, like I said, I wasn't there, so I do not know.
Well, I want
other
you
kids.
pay
The other
attention.
kids said.
Speaking. Pay attention to what I'm saying. Your son says, you don't think your son is a liar, do you?
He will.
Well, you don't think that he would lie to make it appear that Mr. Ewan was a nice guy, right?
No.
If anything, he would lie and say he was a terrible guy, right?
And he has.
Just a second. Just a second. So when he says to you, and to me, that Mr. Ewan didn't take a gun, Mr. Ewan said to him, "You don't get out of here, I'm going to get a shotgun." You think that that's the truth? You think that Mr. Ewan brought out a shotgun? That's what you think? Is that what you think?
I didn't find out till a couple days later, and my son said that no one pulled a shotgun. He said that
nobody pulled a shotgun, right? You saw a shotgun?
I saw the end of it.
You're full of baloney. You're full of baloney.
Don't even have a gun.
You said there was in a pawn shop.
Oh, yeah,
Listen,
I had a pawn shop.
Listen to me very carefully. Your son says that he never pulled a shotgun, that he threatened him. So they came back, you were in the shower, you heard what you thought you heard, and what did you do?
Got all the other kids' moms, went over to the managers, addressed the issue for us and pulling the gun, called the police. The police came out, and then they talked to him, and then they talked to us, and the other it's another guy that's involved in this as well. Anyway, to make a long story short, he was concerned as far as they can't search my house because they don't have a search warrant.
Listen to me. Don't worry about Mr. Ewan.
I'm just saying.
Don't worry about Mr. Ewan. So your son came to you complaining. If you listened carefully with both
wasn't
ears,
the only one.
I'm speaking. Your son came to you, and if you were listening carefully, he said that he was going to get a shotgun, because you say he wouldn't lie about it. And he says he never pulled out a shotgun. He said he threatened he would get it. Isn't that what you just said to me?
Yeah.
Right.
That's
Shop speaking. Try to put your listening ears on. Didn't you ever say that to your son? Put on your listening ears. But while you were getting the other mothers together, the boys went and got eggs and went back to his house and egged his house. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you think that was right?
No.
So what did you do about it? That's not a hard question. Your son went and vandalized somebody's house. What did you do about it?
He was disciplined.
Tell me how.
No sweets, cookies, pop, restriction, not...
Oh, come on. I don't believe a word of that.
Well, I mean, that's my form of discipline.
I don't believe that you disciplined him. Javante, let me tell you this. When you fight with people, that's bad. So if you were fighting with people that day, and who was going to knock who out, that doesn't mean you're too intelligent. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Because that's not the way you start playing 9 o'clock in the morning. I assume school was over so that you had nothing to do. When you have nothing to do, what you're supposed to do is not fight. Find something to occupy your time. Maybe your mother will take you to the planetarium. 9:30 in the morning, she was just taking a shower. She should get up a little earlier in the morning if she has young children to make sure that they are adequately supervised. Now, when you do something wrong, you're supposed to acknowledge that you did something wrong. It's not my job to tell this man who's how old?
50.
50? How to conduct himself? And if this man who's 50 says something untoward to your children, their response is not to go over and vandalize his property. That's not the proper response. He's too old for me to deal with. They're not. Sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will never hurt me. If somebody is stupid and says something to you that you don't like, your response is not to hurt them. Right?
Yes.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $457, which is the amount that I have here in bills. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Well, I thought it was full of crap
I think it was fair.
because he's a liar.
The kids have been a problem.
This man always says he's a big bully.
Come by my place threatening me,
Of all the kids that go over there to play,
talking bad to us.
and I think that we should have won.
Well, I think the parents need to respond a little better.
We went over there and there was no damage.
She said they went straight to the managers, which wasn't right. They came to my place first.
If it was damage, the police would have filed a report, and all of that, if there was damage.
They called the 911, which they shouldn't have done in the first place.
He even said, Mom, it might not have been a real gun. It could have been a water gun.
I didn't say I saw a gun. I just said he said that he was going to get one.
And they do make BB guns that look like, a real gun.
There wasn't any guns involved.
I think it is boys being boys.
Didn't even damage his house.
He doesn't like children, period.
I'm just glad it's over with.
Plaintiff Arthur Foltz is suing his daughter, 27-year-old X-ray technologist Jennifer Foltz, for money meant for her wedding. Arthur says Jennifer doesn't want him to be a part of the ceremony.
Now, this is case number 120 on the calendar, the matter of Foltz versus Foltz. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
How old are you?
I'm 27.
You have brothers and sisters?
I have a younger sister.
How old is she?
She's 26.
And how long ago did your parents divorce?
I was about 3 or 4 years old.
Mr. Foltz, this is your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
And your complaint is that you gave your daughter $3,000 for her wedding.
Yes, ma'am.
And because of circumstances, you decided not to go to the wedding, and you want that money back.
Yes, ma'am.
And your daughter said that this $3,000 was an unconditional gift, and she's already spent it on deposits, etc., for the wedding. When is the wedding scheduled?
May of next year.
Now, how many children do you have, Mr. Foltz?
2 children and 2 stepchildren.
And how long have you been married to your second wife?
15 years.
And how old are those children?
21.
21
25.
and 25.
Okay. So let's get down to it. You called your dad.
Mm-hmm.
You told him you were planning a wedding.
Mm-hmm.
You asked him for some help.
I actually didn't ask him for help. He said to me that he felt it was only fair that he pay 50% and that my mother pay 50%.
Well, that was very nice of him. So you had a reasonable relationship with him if he said that to you, at least now?
Up until, until recently, yes.
I want to ask your mother some questions, okay?
Come on up, Mom.
What's your last name?
Bean.
Your daughter told you initially, after she had spoken to her father, and her father agreed to contribute to the wedding, that it was her intention of having both of you walk her down the aisle?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were not happy with that?
It was not I was okay with it. I was fine with it. I was just worried that his animosity may create some problems.
Did you convey that to your daughter?
I already knew that.
Just a minute. That's not what I asked.
Yes, I did.
I'm asking you these questions, Jennifer, because, you know, if you've been around the block as long as I have, and as many times, nothing is new under the sun.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm getting the following picture. When you spoke to your father, and he said to you, I really want to pay for half the wedding, and you told him that it was your intention to have your two parents walk you down the aisle,
Mm-hmm.
he was pleased about that.
No, he wasn't.
Well, he says he was.
He wasn't.
Well, you don't know that because you weren't on the phone with him. But then later you told him that it was your intention only to have your mother walk you down the aisle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's then that he became angry.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I want my money back. I'm not going to the wedding under those circumstances.
Can she tell you what happened after that?
Sure.
Tell her what happened after that. The planning.
Yeah, as my wedding planning progressed, my dad just kept making demands on me as far as he wanted his own table, he wanted it to be up front, he wanted to invite certain people, and he was just putting extra stress on me that I was already going through with the wedding.
Okay. Well, how many people were you planning on having at the wedding?
80, 100.
Well, then, wouldn't it be normal for him to have his own table?
I think he was under the impression that there would be my parents having their own table and my fiance's parents having their own table, and he wanted to make sure he wouldn't be sitting with my mother.
So, what's wrong with that?
There's a lot wrong with that.
No, there isn't. Jennifer, there's not a lot wrong with that. If you had two parents who really got along beautifully with each other and they had this lovely relationship that had developed over the years despite the fact that they were not together, then there wouldn't have been anything untoward about them sharing a table. But if you knew that they did not enjoy that kind of relationship, then you should have been smart enough to say, you have your table with your family. Of course, Dad.
Yeah,
you
I
have
did
your
say that.
If you have your table with your family, and Mom will have her table with her family, or maybe Mom will sit with, what's the boyfriend's name?
Doug.
Mom is going to sit with Doug's family, and you can sit with your family. 80 people. You're not going to all sit at one table. So, just taking care of that problem. Now, what's the second problem that he raised?
He wanted to invite certain guests, and I wanted to have a smaller wedding. I didn't want strangers
What did he
at
want?
my wedding.
What did
Some close friends of his.
How many?
I think there were 2 of them.
That's reasonable, Jennifer.
Right, but if he wasn't even really involved in my life, why would he want to share that with other people?
Jennifer, you were willing to take his money, weren't you?
He offered
Just
it
a
to
second.
me.
You were willing to take his money,
Yes,
weren't you?
I was.
If you're willing to take his money, and if you said to him, and I want you and Mom to walk me down the aisle, and then you say, I changed my mind because he was making, according to you, unreasonable demands, I'm telling you, you're out of line. And I really wasn't prepared to go that way.
Listen, can I say something now?
Sure, you sure can.
I did not change my mind because I changed my mind because I'd always wanted it just to be my mom. It was my way of honoring my mom for raising me. I didn't do it to punish my dad. I didn't do it for anything other than to honor my mother. That's the only reason I made that decision.
Jennifer, my dear, then you shouldn't have told your father at the beginning, Dad, I want you and Mom to walk me down the aisle. You should not have told him that. Because what you're telling me now is, well, I told him that, but then he made these demands on me, which is what you said a moment ago.
It is what I said a moment ago.
Oh, yeah, he made these demands on me, which I now tell you as a third party, totally unrelated to you, were totally appropriate requests from a person who really knows. Because although my husband and I have made many weddings, we have a mixed family.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand what you're talking about. You're wrong.
Okay.
You're wrong. And you did the wrong thing.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He said, I'm not looking forward to walking you down the aisle.
Arthur Foltz says his daughter Jennifer Foltz owes for money given towards her wedding. Arthur says Jennifer doesn't want him to walk her down the aisle.
Those two things that your father asked, to have a separate table, separate from your mother, and to invite 2 friends.
He also wanted his own limo. No.
Shh, just a second. Well, tell me about that.
He asked me if I was going to have a limo at the wedding, and I said, no, I don't need one. I'm just going to drive myself to the place, get ready there. Later on that evening, we got together for dinner, my father and I, and he said that he was going to have a limo for him and his friends.
So? He didn't ask you to pay for it, did he?
No, he didn't ask me to pay for it.
So?
But I just thought that was a little, odd. It's my wedding, but he wants to show up in the limo.
Who cares? Who cares if he comes in a bus? Who cares if he comes in a long bus, a short bus? It doesn't make any difference, Jennifer. You're picking on him. You're picking on him, honey. Life's too short.
It just bothers me that I didn't have much of a relationship with him when I was a child, and now he's trying to overtake the wedding and be a bigger part of the wedding than I feel he should be.
Jennifer, you're being a big baby.
I'm not being a big baby.
Yeah, you're being a big baby. And if you have bad feelings about your dad because he wasn't there for you when you were growing up, lots of children of divorce feel that way about their parents, especially when their parents remarry and have second family, right? That they're involved with, that live with them. The kids feel as if I didn't have the benefit of really a full-time or even a part-time great parent. It's never too late.
I don't feel as if it's too late.
Well, you shouldn't feel as if it's too late. And it's a shame if your father doesn't go to the wedding. It's a shame if you have a wedding that doesn't include your father and his wife and your mother. Are you remarried?
No.
And whoever she wants to bring, if she wants to bring anybody, and everybody else who's part of your life. It's a shame that you don't have that moment. You will, listen to me, you will always regret it. Because, you know why, Jennifer? You'll always look at that book of pictures. And there'll be a bad feeling that he wasn't there.
You know what, though? When I told him that I wanted just my mom to walk me down the aisle, he said to me that I want nothing to do with your wedding. He took himself out of the wedding. I can understand he's hurt. I'm sure he's hurt. But if he doesn't go to my wedding, it's on his terms, not mine.
No, Jennifer, you're wrong. You're being young. You're being young. I disagree with him if what he chooses to do is to not go to the wedding. But I'm telling you, you're not a baby. You're a big girl.
I am a big girl.
And your mother should be a big person. And your mother should say, usually, if one parent walks a child down the aisle, it's usually their father, not their mother, unless their father's dead. And in this case, if you want to be a big person, and you want to be a big person, you say, for that 30 seconds that it takes to walk down the aisle, let's walk our daughter, our firstborn, down the aisle together and give her away, and then there'll be a picture of her family at her wedding. Because, what can happen is 10 years from now, when you and Doug have 2 kids, and you and your father have hopefully reconciled, your children will say to you, where's Poppy's picture at your wedding? And if you have not reconciled, then what you're doing is you're depriving your children of the widest possible community of love and affection.
I wouldn't be the one that would deprive them of that, though. He would be the one that would not make the effort.
You hurt him?
I know.
You
I
hurt
understand that.
You hurt him? He's supposed to be bigger than that. Your mother is supposed to be bigger than that.
I didn't do a thing.
Well, you did, Miss Bean.
Yeah, exactly.
You did, because you said to your daughter, and you acknowledged that you said to your daughter, I hope he can get over certain things, and I hope he's not going to be hostile. And
in response to his hostility when she told him that we were going to do it together.
Madam, I'm talking about before you got there. Before you got to the point where she said, I changed my mind, Dad, only Mom is walking me down the aisle. Then he got hostile.
He was hostile before I changed my mind.
He was hostile from the beginning.
Looking forward to walking you down the aisle with your mother. And I said, why? And he goes, because we know how that turned out last time. And I said, Dad, you're not marrying my mother. You're giving me away.
Is that true, sir?
No, ma'am.
I mean, I don't understand how that could be true if he said to you, I want to pay for half the wedding. In the same conversation, when he said to you, I want to pay for half the wedding, and you're telling me now that his conversation was hostile?
Yes.
I don't believe you. Listen, Mr. Foltz, I can see I'm not getting anywhere. I've made my best efforts, sir. You gave your daughter $3,000 for the wedding. It was a no-strings gift. I hope you go to the wedding, and Jennifer, I think if you want to grow up to be a big person and your mother wants to be the loving mother that she is, you will decide that it's the right thing that both your parents walk you down the aisle. You still have plenty of time to do that and to make up so that you don't end up looking at that wedding album 20 years from now and saying it was really a sad day. Mr. Foltz,
Your Honor.
Say nothing. Say nothing. You made your daughter a $3,000 contribution towards her wedding. I hope she does the right thing with it.
I
That's
do
all.
have
Case
things to say,
over.
Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think we're still both very hurt and angry, and I think that neither one of us really wants to take the step towards mending our relationship.
25 years ago, I tried to make amends to my ex-husband for the trouble that I caused in our divorce.
Her statement that I didn't raise her, and that's, it's very hurtful to me.
25 years is a long time to hold a grudge, but I don't want to see anything between him and my daughter get worse and divide them forever.
My heart tells me that I love her, but I just don't think it's being reciprocated.
My wedding's supposed to be a happy time, and it's turning out to be not quite so happy.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Martin versus Martin. Step forward.
26-year-old insurance sales assistant Karen Martin is suing her ex-husband, home improvement salesman Kevin Martin, for stealing her share of a tax refund. Karen claims Kevin forged her signature on the check.
Ms. Martin, the defendant is your former husband. It is your claim that there was a government refund check in the amount of $400 that was issued to both of you. It is your claim that Mr. Martin forged your signature to that check, cashed that check, and you want your $200.
Yes, that is correct.
Mr. Martin says there was no check that he received. He did not forge your name to any check, and he, quite frankly, doesn't know what you're talking about. Okay. So let us assume for a moment that a refund check was sent to Mr. and Mrs. Martin. So your obligation now, Ms. Martin, is to establish that he forged your name to that check.
Okay.
I'm waiting for you.
Okay. I do have a copy of the check where it's signed by him, and that is not my signature.
Okay.
I do have other...
Okay, let me see it.
Okay.
Mr. Martin, the Family Service Center, you familiar with that institution?
Yes, I am.
Tell me about that institution, sir.
It's a credit union that we had, as we were married, had an account there.
Mm-hmm. Are you trying to tell... clearly this check was sent to the two of you, and clearly it was endorsed by two people.
I never knew anything about the check. I never even knew that we were getting some kind of tax credit check.
How did you find out about the check, Ms. Martin?
My cousin had received hers, and she had asked me if I got anything on it, and I...
These were the checks that were $400 that were issued to families by President Bush, is that right?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. It was $400 per child, and she had received hers and asked me if I received mine, and I said, no, I didn't. Mm-hmm. And I had called Kevin, asked him about it.
And what did he say?
He said, he had still said, I have no idea what you're talking about. How do you... Actually, he said, how do you know that I... Or how does he know that I didn't forge his signature?
So, Mr. Martin, what I'm asking you is that the conversation you had? How do I know you didn't forge my signature? Right?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the answer. The answer is you weren't calling her to complain that you didn't get your $200, right?
I never knew.
No, listen to me.
Okay.
You weren't calling her, Mr. Martin, to complain that you didn't get your $200.
No.
Because according to you, you didn't know about it. So why would she call you to complain? Listen to me. Call you to complain. If she had forged your signature to the check so that she got the entire $400 and you weren't calling her to complain about it, you get my drift, sir?
I understand what you're saying.
Old story. If it doesn't make sense, it's usually not true. And if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. So somebody from your credit union cashed this... I'm speaking! Somebody from your credit union cashed this check with a signature that I have compared with the signature on your answer and with a signature that I have compared with the signature on Miss Martin's complaint. And while that's not necessarily dispositive of who forged whose signature, the signature on this check, your signature on this check, is eerily similar to your signature on the answer. While her signature on the check is no way similar to her signature on her complaint. So I put those facts together, and you know what I came up with? Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $200. That's all. Step out.
All these are excused and they step out.
She's accused me of kicking her car, slashing her tires, cutting her brake line.
He has 2 domestic violence charges against him. I have a PPO against him currently right now.
She hates me. I left her.
There was multiple threats about bodily harm to me because I'm her new boyfriend, and it was the classic case of the husband being jealous of his ex-wife's new boyfriend. It's pretty cut and dry.
She won't leave me alone. She's made my life a living hell, and I'm just tired of it.
Well, you know, he knew that wasn't my signature. He knew it was his signature, and obviously Judge...
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of DeLong versus Bryant. Step forward, please.
Retail auditor Darlene Dottie DeLong is suing her ex-boyfriend, painting contractor John Bryant, for his share of the trip to North Carolina. John says he was out of work, so Dottie picked up the tab.
Mr. Long, Mr. Bryant and you were involved in a relationship, and according to your complaint, he wanted to travel from where the two of you were living to his hometown. There was some problem with his daughter and other things, but the problem was he didn't have any money. So you made an arrangement with him whereby you would put everything on your credit card and he would pay you back that money within a certain period of time. And he hasn't paid you back, and you're no longer involved in a relationship. Mr. Bryant said there was never a loan. He just wanted to go back to his hometown, meet his friends and family. There was never any agreement to reimburse you for any of the expenses. Is that right, sir?
That's true.
Okay. How long were you involved with Mr. Bryant before you decided to accompany him to his hometown?
Approximately a couple months.
Couple of months?
Couple of months.
You were not living together, you were just seeing him?
He stayed at the house and I stayed at his house.
And where were you living at the time?
In Indian River.
Indian River is where?
Michigan.
And where is your hometown, sir?
Afton, Michigan, just the next town over from Indian River.
So this is the trip that you made?
No, we went to North Carolina.
Oh, well, that's what I want to know. You went to North Carolina?
Yes.
From Michigan. And
yes,
how long did that take you?
We were gone for 4 days. The ride down is about a 13 to 14-hour ride.
When did you travel there?
A couple days before the Super Bowl.
What prompted you to go?
Her wanting to go down, meet my children, my friends. We were sitting in the bar one night. It was during the playoffs, and I would call my friends in North Carolina, and we'd root back and forth about how the Panthers were going to the Super Bowl, and she said, wouldn't it be nice if we went down and watched the game with your friends? And, you know, yeah, sure, it would be great, but I told her that I wasn't working, I didn't have the money, and I thought it would be ridiculous for us to do that because I couldn't afford it.
Why weren't you working?
It was wintertime in northern Michigan, and I'm a paint contractor, and things are real slow in the wintertime up there.
Okay. And she said what to you?
She said that she would love to pay for us to go down, do that for me, so we could see my kids, she could meet my kids and my family, my friends.
And that's what you did?
Yes, she was very persistent. Yeah.
Good. Now I'll hear your version of the events, Mr. Long.
We went to North Carolina.
No, before you went to North Carolina.
I don't know what you want to know. We were dating, and his daughter was in trouble.
Well, tell me about that.
Okay, his daughter was in trouble. He wanted to go see his daughter. She was going into a girl's home, running out in the middle of the night, sneaking in and out of her house.
Is that what he told you?
Yes, I have phone bills to prove he was calling there.
All right, so tell me about the trip to North Carolina.
We went to North Carolina. He left me at his friend's house, went over and visited his daughter a couple times. We went to the school to visit his daughter. And the other time we were at the Super Bowl party at his friend's house.
I didn't hear about any loan, madam.
I paid for all the gas on the way down on my credit cards, which I have the receipts of his signature.
Yes.
And he told me that if I paid for it, when he got back to work, he'd reimburse me.
When did you expect him to get back to work?
When the weather broke up there. March, April.
And when is the Super Bowl?
January.
End of January.
End of January.
Sorry.
Just telling you.
I loaned him money, a $50 loan at one point. Not sure if you want me to tell you about that loan.
No, don't ask him.
It was drugs, so he could buy a bag of pot.
Yes.
He did reimburse me for that.
When did he reimburse?
He did reimburse me for that. When? Are you saying I'm lying? Are you saying I'm lying?
Ma'am. Yes. Talk to the judge.
Thank you. Okay, so what you're telling me, Mr. Long, is When he borrowed money from you for marijuana, he paid you back.
Yes, he did.
So when he considers it a loan, he pays you back. Is that what you're telling me?
He gave me that back because I pursued it. He went to work a couple times and got paid. And I said, can I get some money from you for what you owe me? Because I have none. And he says, this is what I got that I can afford. I know I owe you more, but I can't give it to you right now.
When
and I
is
have
that?
witnesses to that.
Oh, I'll hear you witness. Step up. Tell me your name.
Brenda Santor.
And how are you related to these people?
Darlene is my cousin.
Okay. Tell me about where you were when you overheard Mr. Bryant acknowledging a debt to the plaintiff.
I was in her living room. He just gotten out of the shower. He was sitting in the chair, and he handed Darlene a $100 bill, said that this is part of the money that I owe you, that he was going to make good on the money for the trip.
I don't believe what you just said. Just a minute. I don't believe what you just said.
Well,
you're making that up as you're going.
No.
I believe that you may have seen him hand him 100. Listen to me, Brenda.
Ma'am?
I believe you when you said that you saw him hand her a $100 bill. That might make sense, that he got out of a shower and he handed her a $100 bill. I don't believe you when you said that you heard him say, I know that I owe you money for the trip and I'm going to give it back. Because somebody who just gets out of a shower and is sitting around in a towel doesn't talk about, here's $100 and I know I owe you more money for the trip and I'm going to pay you back. That's what you want me to believe you heard?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
When he was sitting in the chair in the living room, we were standing right there in the doorway. And when he handed Darlene the money, he said that he would make good on the money he owes her.
Oh, just a second. Just a second.
Well, the
just
money
a second.
that he owes her was for the trip. So.
Sit down. Okay. Anything else you want to tell me?
I have phone bills here that show that his daughter was in trouble, that he had made from my house.
So?
Why would I want to go to see his daughter in trouble?
No, I don't think you wanted to go and see his daughter who was in trouble. I think that you wanted to solidify your relationship and you wanted to go meet his friends. You knew he had no money, so you paid for the trip. Whatever the trip was, gas money, motel money. It was a social endeavor. You paid for it. You anticipated a long-term relationship. You didn't have one. Stop complaining. Write it off. It was a bad debt.
Your Honor?
What?
I'm the one that asked Jack to leave.
That may be, and you may have had good reason for that, madam, because if a man doesn't have any money and he wants to spend whatever money he doesn't have in buying drugs, that should have been your first clue that this was not a good idea. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Very good. I wouldn't have traveled with him from here to over where that light switch is. But you chose to do that, pay for it. It was a foolish thing to do. Don't do it again. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think Judge Judy's wonderful.
I'm nothing to say. He lies.
She sees right through Darlene's bull.
Being used. Felt used.
This woman has been married 5 times.
He's lying. He borrowed the money from her, and he should have been, told to pay it back.
Absolutely ridiculous, and I thank goodness that Judge Judy's seen through it.
I'm more fortunate than that. I don't have misfit children.
I am not a misfit child.
I chose to help him because I thought maybe it could make a difference.
Any dime that I borrowed from this woman was paid to her. Anything that she spent money on is because she wanted to. When I borrowed money, I paid the money.
Lies.
It's ridiculous. The whole thing is ridiculous.
What goes around comes around.
She's a liar.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Collins versus Collins. Step forward, please.
Store manager Angela Collins is suing her ex-husband, construction worker Jack Collins, for his share of foreclosure fees. Jack says it was Angela's fault the trailer was repossessed.
Miss Collins, this is your former husband.
Yes, ma'am.
You claim that he owes you $750 because you were forced to pay certain assessments on a home that you jointly owned before the divorce.
Yes, ma'am.
And that you were forced to settle with the whatever company recently. You had no knowledge prior to the divorce that this was going to be a problem, and you feel as if it's only fair for him to pay his fair share.
Yes, ma'am.
And he says it was your house, deal with it. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
When were you married?
In 98.
1998. And when were you divorced?
2002.
And when did you separate?
Probably about 2000.
Who lived in the home?
Me and him. And our 2 children.
How old are your children?
They're 11 and 12.
See from the papers that the children don't live with either one of you. Is that right?
You're right. They live with my mother.
Why?
She adopted them.
Why?
Because she couldn't handle them. She didn't want me to have them, and she didn't want them, so that's why she
Stop tapping.
tried to sign
She wanted to sign adoption, pretty much forced me into signing adoption papers over to her mother for financial reasons, you know, and it just didn't make no sense. She didn't want me to have custody of children, but she didn't want custody of children, and they didn't want me to see them. I still don't see my children.
Then that's what happens when you sign away your legal rights to the children. You don't have to see them. Okay, so you separated in '98, and you stayed in the property.
Yeah.
Is that right?
From February to May.
Alone?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you sure? Are you sure about that?
I'm positive.
The gentleman sitting next to her over there was the one that was moving in.
He
That's
never
my
lived there,
second
Your
cousin,
Honor.
Your Honor.
When I started seeing him and his mama kept coming there and they wouldn't leave, and that's the reason I ended up moving out. We was just dating, Your Honor.
You say he was in and out of jail for burglary and drug use. I stayed in our manufactured home that was on his parents' property and continued on my life with a new spouse.
No, we was not married. We're still not married. We was just seeing each other, and he never lived there.
Did he stay there?
No, ma'am.
Did he come to visit?
Yes, ma'am.
Did he stay over occasionally?
Yes, ma'am.
Of course he did. All right. So, did you pay the mortgage during the whole time you were living there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and what happened in May?
Him and his mother kept coming over, and they kept kicking in the front door, and then he got he got upset because I was seeing him, and they kept showing their butt, and he tried to run me off the road, and they kept kicking in the front door, so I just moved out.
Why didn't you take the trailer with you?
I didn't have nowhere to take it to.
So you just left it?
Yeah.
When he left, did he say to you, this is your problem, this is your trailer?
No, actually he said him and his father was going to move into the trailer and keep the trailer.
But what happened to the trailer? It got repossessed?
It got repossessed with half my stuff in it, Your Honor.
Did you pay them this $1,500?
Yes, ma'am.
Let me
Here's the
see.
receipt right here.
Okay. I'll hear you, Mr. Collins. Why shouldn't you be charged for half of this?
Your Honor, I told her whenever I left there, I had went and bought another car. I loaded all my stuff up in a small car. And I told her, I said, as long as you have my children, you can stay on this property as long as you want. And I'll help you pay the note on the trailer as long as my kids are living there. But whenever he moves in, y'all all need to move out. You understand what I mean? I'm not going to sit there and support him and her. So when she decided that I wasn't going to be that dummy and support him and her, then she just left.
How old are you?
30.
You're a big boy. If you buy something from a bank and you take out a mortgage, what you do when you divorce is you make sure that when you get a divorce, all the loose ends are wrapped up. They moved out. They left the trailer on your mother's property. What happened to it?
The repossessors, they were supposed to pay us storage fee for even having the trailer.
What happened to the trailer?
They come repossessed it.
When?
I don't even know.
I don't know.
I moved.
I don't know. I don't know what my name is after this case. Listen to me. You owe her half the money. I mean, certainly when they've written off $10,000 worth of mortgage fees, neither one of you are going to get star credit ratings, but at least you're not going to have judgments against you, and at least under these circumstances, you're not going to have your income tax return if you have any refund taken, or they're not going to come and detach your driver's license. They can't take your children because you've already given them away. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $750. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think she was very fair. I got what I deserved.
I left the trailer there to her, so I think she was responsible for the payments.
We just can't be in the same room together.
Every time I turned around, we were arguing. I couldn't get along.
I'm his second cousin, but that's on my mother's side, and I don't even associate with nobody over there on that side of the family.
It's been so long ago, I'm over it.
Herman and Tina Smoody are suing their former son-in-law, Dalton McDonald, for unpaid loans.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2082, Smoody versus McDonald.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. and Mrs. Smoody, the defendant used to be married to your daughter.
Yes, Your Honor.
And according to what I've read, they were married for about 5 years?
Yes.
The thrust of your claim is that he owes for a couple of things, for rent and the balance of a truck. That's your lawsuit against him. I'd like to know, do you know the date of their marriage?
3/16/2011.
And your ex-wife's first name?
Jacqueline.
And when did you and your former wife separate?
In 2020.
And you had 2 children. How old are they now?
They are 5 and 8.
And who has custody of the children?
Dalton has physical, and they have joint custody.
Just a second. So he has custody of the 2 younger children?
Yes.
That's a yes. How long have you had custody of the two children?
Since July of last year.
At some point during the marriage, there was a truck purchased.
Yes.
Who purchased the truck?
Dalton purchased the truck. I co-signed for it.
And when was it purchased? Month and year?
June of 2017.
Was that the only car that they had?
Yes.
So that was a family car.
Yes.
And in 2017, was your daughter working?
Yes.
So both parents worked. And both parents, I assume, pooled their money and I assume made car payments.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
Is that correct? Both. And then they separated in 2020, and at that time the children came to live with you.
Correct.
And you took the truck.
Yes.
By agreement with your now ex-wife.
Yes.
In 2020, who made the car payments?
My husband did.
Is that correct?
Yes. I made all of the car payments on that vehicle. All of them, from the time it was purchased until we paid it off.
Okay, so what you're telling me is from 2017, you made all the car payments.
That's correct.
Did your daughter and son-in-law make any of those payments?
Not directly, but they paid toward the balance of the money that they were.
You paid for the truck.
That's correct.
Since 2017, since they
correct.
were married.
Yes.
With no reimbursement.
I took payments out of my daughter's check.
Just be very, very careful with me, sir.
Yeah.
I want you to be very careful with me. I read that, what we call in Yiddish, Babameises in here, that you took money out of your daughter's check. Babameises, it means grandma's tale. It means it's not true. It means it doesn't sound right to me. I read it in here. Don't try to repeat it here because that won't be good for you. Okay, I'm going to believe you if you show me copies of her checks that you made to her with withdrawals from money she owed you. That's all I want to see. Do you have that?
I do not.
Not, of course not. Now, he has the truck, and this was clearly either a gift or a marital debt. Either one of those two things. It's either a gift or a marital debt. It was a family car that was used by your daughter, her husband, the grandchildren, with, according to you, no reimbursement, according to you, except this ridiculous reimbursement from your daughter's check, which I don't believe, so I'm not even going into it, with no reimbursement 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. And when your daughter and the defendant separated in 2020, according to him and according to you, he took the truck and the children. And that was with her consent or not?
Yes, it was.
With her consent. Is that so far right? That's what you're telling me.
It's accurate.
Right. Did you intervene in the divorce proceeding and say that there is money owed, marital debt owed, and part of the marital debt is this loan on the truck?
No.
No. The answer is no, you did not. It would also be fair to say that you don't know how much, according to you, she paid for the truck.
I do, Your Honor. I have that ledger that I have. I would go to her each week and say, Jacqueline, how much can I take toward the loan? And that's how much I would take off each week.
All you have to do, sir, is show me. Otherwise, this is a whole bunch of nonsense.
Yeah.
It's a marital debt. You did not intervene in the divorce proceedings and say, listen, this is a debt that's still outstanding, whatever it is, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. You didn't do that. Now, the only thing that you can say to me with regard to this truck business is if you had, had an agreement with the defendant in 2017 to pay the truck. And be very careful, because what you've told me is he didn't make any payments to you from 2017 ever.
He made some payments.
Just a second. Interesting. Show me where he made payments. Did you give him a receipt for payments?
No, this is a small town, and
It's not a small town, it's a family, sir. It's not a small...
I do have the ledger.
I'm not interested in the ledger you created. It's self-serving and therefore inadmissible and created for the purpose solely of this litigation and not created at the same time that the event took place. I might even cut you a little slack if you had a ledger, a book with entries in it at different times from 2017 in different ink, with a day, how much was paid back on the loan. I guarantee you do not have that. You have a very nice piece of white paper that you created for me. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That is accurate.
Okay, so I'm not interested in your ledger. That's not a ledger. That's a document prepared for the purposes of litigation. So I want you to tell me what conversation you had and when with Mr. McDonald about paying for the truck. They bought this boat from you.
Accurate.
And how much did you sell it to them for?
$2,500.
Herman and Tina Smoody claim their former son-in-law, Dalton McDonald, owes for unpaid loans.
Now, I want you to tell me what conversation you had and when with Mr. McDonald about paying for the truck.
That was from the very beginning because I was paying all their bills.
Just a second. I don't care whether you were paying their bills. I understand you were paying all their bills because they came to live with you for a brief period of time because they were evicted for whatever reason. And that was sometime in 2016. Okay. So I understand that you were paying their bills. Well, sometimes that's what parents do. They pay their bills.
We were paying their bills because they had no checking account.
That doesn't matter to me. I want to know your conversations with, where did it take place? Because you're not suing your daughter, you're suing him.
The conversation was when we rented the farm for them, which I know is not with the truck, but the landlord would not let them rent from them because they had terrible credit.
Well, get to the rent later. Stick with the truck. Don't talk to him when I'm asking him questions.
Well, the truck was the same thing. We put that on the ledger then, or on the running total, and they agreed. They both agreed that they were going to pay us off.
Okay.
He came over on Labor Day weekend, and I showed him the ledger, which he saw all the time.
No. Don't tell me what he saw. Don't tell me what he saw. If what you're saying is you showed him the ledger when he came over with the boys,
yes,
and he was going back to Minnesota.
Right.
And he brought the boys to see you to say goodbye?
Correct.
Okay, so far, it's very nice. You have a reasonable relationship with him, and certainly your daughter was clearly overwhelmed because courts do not usually split up children, so they must have felt that the children's best interest would be served if they remained with their father. Clearly what happened, the father came over to you to let you say goodbye to the children, and when he came over to let you say goodbye to the children, let me understand what you're saying to me. What you said to him was, not thank you for taking over this responsibility. Your daughter had more children than she could take care of, physically or financially, right? Clearly.
Yes.
Clearly. So what you want me to believe that two nice people who took in their daughter with her two kids and a husband and bought a truck and made arrangements for them to have some place to live, that these two nice people, when he came over, because your daughter couldn't take care of her children, and he brought them to say goodbye, you said, it's very nice. I want you to take a look at this ledger and see how much money you owe me. That's what you're asking me to believe, right? I'm going to let you live with that fantasy that I believe that.
And so I did give him the balance of what he owed me on the rent.
No.
And on the truck.
Nice.
And
he
he looked me in the eye, he shook my hand and said, Jerry, I promise I'm not going to screw you on this. I'm going to make those payments.
Make payments for what?
On the rent and on the truck.
Okay. Did you have that conversation with him?
No, I did not, Your Honor. The conversation was when I came up there the last time, Jerry was trying to sell his fishing boat, so I posted it on Facebook, and I sold it for him.
In what month and year?
That would have been September of 2020. After selling the boat, he gave me $1,200 for helping him.
How much did he sell the boat for?
It was $4,700.
So that was after you'd already moved?
Correct.
With the children?
Yep.
Okay. He helped you sell the boat for $4,700? Just answer my question.
No.
Did you give him $1,200?
No. He bought that boat from me a year prior to that. He had it.
So they bought this boat from you?
Accurate.
When?
That would have been in the spring of 2019.
And how much did you sell it to them for?
$2,500.
Did they pay you for it?
No, part of that was put on the ledger, and part of it was cash.
You know, I'm not buying your whole story. I'm not buying your whole story
sorry,
because what
Your Honor, I'm telling you the honest to God truth.
No, I don't think so. I don't think that I would have sold people who had no credit, who couldn't buy themselves a truck. So you had to co-sign for the only means of transportation that they had, who couldn't pay for their rent, who couldn't pay their bills because of their bad credit. I don't believe this whole scenario about selling them a leisure boat for $2,500. It's mind-boggling that you would think that an intelligent person like me would accept that. Okay, forget the truck. You have the truck now.
Yes.
Okay. You haven't finished your story with me. So sold the boat, and he gave you $1,200.
Correct. I gave him the $1,200 back, which made us even on the truck payment, and he gave me the title. Tina signed it, and then I brought it back to Minnesota and put it in my name.
Okay. Who signed it?
Tina signed it.
My name was on it as well.
Your name?
Yes.
As joint owners with him?
Yep.
Co-signer.
Oh, interesting. In what month did Mrs. Smoody?
Yes.
Sign over the car to you?
The same day that I gave Jerry the $1,200, that would have been in September.
Now, do you remember the $1,200?
No, it was $1,000 that he paid toward the loan when I sold the boat for him.
Okay.
And it was his boat that I sold for him.
Okay. You did not create this as a marital debt. It absolutely was a marital debt. So I'm dismissing that portion of your claim that deals with the truck. Now, let's deal with the rent. The rent that you're talking about was rent in what property?
The farmhouse that they rented.
From when to when?
2016, November 2020.
And over the years that they lived there as a couple.
Yes.
The rent was paid to a landlord.
Correct.
By you.
Yes.
Is that right?
Correct.
And they, your daughter and her husband, would give you cash, checks, or whatever to cover the rent.
Yep.
Yes.
And how much did they give you to cover the rent?
When we started out, rent was $800, and later on he raised it to $900. We never made it a set amount each week. They gave us what they could. And we've done this before in the past, and they've always paid us back.
Well, then you should have sued them and listed all of this as a marital debt in the process of their divorce. So it could all have been...
We're handling Jacqueline in another way.
You what?
We're handling Jacqueline alone.
I don't understand what that means.
Well, you're saying it was marital.
Just a second. Does that mean that you've already served your daughter with a summons?
Not yet, no.
Of course not. Of course not. And you did know when they were divorcing. Yeah. You did know when they were divorcing. I'm not buying anything of this lawsuit, most of which, at least the rent part, is totally stale. I'm just curious, Mr. and Mrs. Smoody, somebody wants to answer this question for me. Mr. McDonald has custody of your two young grandsons, who I assume that you were close to because they lived with you in your house. And you
seem to live with us. The two boys came back to live with us.
From when to when?
December of 2021 until July of 2022. 6 months we had them.
Just a second, 2022. Was there a court proceeding?
No.
But then in July they went back with their father.
That's accurate.
And they've been with their father since?
Yes.
Okay, so the boys lived with you for 6-7 months.
Right.
Was that an acrimonious transfer? That's what you meant when you said any employer that has gone through all that paperwork and red tape, as I have, will do anything to avoid it. The anything is firing the employee.
And Tina Smoody are accusing their former son-in-law, Dalton McDonald, of refusing to pay back loans.
Was that an acrimonious transfer, or was it something that you both...
What happened there was he called my husband to see if
No, don't tell me what he said to your husband.
Okay,
I will tell you then. He called me in December and asked me if I would please take the two boys. I told him, I will take them, Dalton, if you start making regular payments.
Oh, well, we're out of the money business now, sir. What you're saying is from 2017, when the children were in his custody, your daughter may have been there, but they were in joint custody, and then he maintained custody of the children, and during the time he maintained custody of the children, there was no question whatsoever that he was not paying you back money. He did not make any payments to you. Occasional here and there, we don't keep records. All of a sudden, now you have the boys with you. And then in July, he comes back and he takes the boys back. All I asked you was whether that was an acrimonious, which is an unpleasant, or a harmonious transfer of the children. Mr. Smoody was in July.
In July, it was acrimonious because at that point, he'd gotten a restraining order against me.
Against you?
Against me while we had the children. Because I sent him a letter saying that I wanted payment, and he went and got a restraining order against me because they took that as a threat.
I'd like to see the letter, please, Kevin. And this is what needs to happen moving forward.
That's correct.
You need to mail me $200 on the 1st of every month and $200 on the 15th, starting March 1st, 2022. If I do not get these payments on time, the following will happen, which is, you know, you could say, I'm going to sue you, right? I'm going to sue you, but that's not what you say. You say, I will go to your boss and talk to them about garnishing your wages. Any employer that has gone through all the paperwork and red tape as I have will do anything to avoid it. So that's a threat. What you're saying is, I'm going to call your boss and tell him that I'm going to sue you, and then your boss is going to have to go through all the red tape of what it means to have a garnish on your salary. You have to go through accounting, and they have to deduct it. And no boss wants to do that, which is in effect say, so either you pay me or your boss is going to fire you. That's what you meant when you said, any employer that has gone through all that paperwork and red tape, as I have, will do anything to avoid it. The anything is firing the employee. The only thing that
you can legally fire somebody.
Just a second. Whether you can legally fire them or not, that's what you were threatening. That's what that said. So we got an order of protection against you.
Correct.
And?
Then I didn't fight it because I didn't anticipate having any conversations or contact with him.
When you wrote this letter,
yes,
you had the boys.
Yes.
Right. Not before.
No.
Not before. And he had had the boys for some time alone.
3 months.
He had had the boys for some time alone. Okay. Let's go back to my original question, which was, when the boys went back to their father, was it acrimonious or harmonious?
It was not good.
Well, so tell me your version of what happened.
The reason it was acrimonious is because he knew very well that once we got him, we put him on a strict schedule. 8 o'clock, brush your teeth, 8:15, pajamas, 8:30, bed.
Where was your daughter living at this time?
With us.
Yeah, just to say, if you're going to interrupt him because you want to get it out,
I'm sorry,
that's not going to be good for you.
She had a room at our house.
Just a second. So your daughter was living with you. So what you're telling me was your daughter was in the wind someplace.
Accurate.
Okay. You know, you had her for a long time. He only had her for 5 years. And I can understand the sadness if your daughter is in the wind and not being responsible, sir. But that doesn't mean he has to shoulder all the burden. Right now, he's shouldering all the burden of supporting the 2 children, which I assume you're doing. They're living with you. And so are you working?
Yes, I am.
And he's working. Your daughter is not.
She's working 2 jobs.
She always has.
If she's working 2 jobs, why was she in a room?
She wasn't renting. She was living there free.
Okay. So now let's get back to this acrimonious transfer of the children back in July.
Dalton called me, or called the kids.
Okay, so he called the children.
After bedtime.
Okay.
Called my wife's phone 4 times. Ring, 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 ring. And she wouldn't answer because kids were in bed. And then he called my phone twice. The second time, I have an old flip phone. I flipped it, walked in, because now I hear the boys are awake. I let them talk to the boys. And then I took the phone back, and I said some naughty things to him and hung it up.
What did you say naughty things to him for?
Because I was very angry at him. Can I use some swear words that I used when I told him?
No, I assume you used some terrible words.
Yeah,
but
I just told him, don't call me anymore.
Is there any reason that you discussed with your wife why she didn't answer the phone?
Because the boys were already in bed. He had done that before.
You already told me that you heard the boys, so you took the phone into his room.
After the phone calls, they woke up.
Is what you're telling me that the first time that he tried to talk to the boys, that you or your wife didn't answer the phone?
I think it probably happened once or twice prior, and then we told him, don't do it anymore.
Okay, fine.
And this time we were fed up.
Fine. So that's when he said, I'm coming to take the boys.
No.
Well, when did he say he was coming to take the boys?
Not until July. Jacqueline told us that Dalton was going to be taking the kids once they got out of school.
Okay, I'm going to take the pain out of this case, and I'm going to do it relatively quickly. I think, Mr. and Mrs. Smoody, that this lawsuit was very ill-advised. The defendant doesn't owe you any money. He doesn't owe you any money because if there was money owed, it was a marital debt, and it should have been taken up at the time of the divorce, listed as a marital debt, and then it could have been fixed by the judge who approved the divorce, how much and by whom is owed money. You chose not to do that. It was only after a very acrimonious set of circumstances, roughly 5.5 years later, after this truck was purchased, that you chose to exercise any prerogatives with regard to a debt, except this letter, which threatens to go to his boss to get him fired if you don't stop making payments, and that was only after the 2 children came to live with you and were sort of overwhelmed. You have to understand, Mr. McDonald, who I think probably is trying, he's got the 2 boys. It got very complicated, but it's not a lawsuit, and I would make nice with him. He's got 2 children that you probably want to have some connection with, and this lawsuit certainly doesn't help that. Well, anyway, for all the reasons that I've stated, your lawsuit's dismissed. We're finished. Thank you, Your Honor.
This court is adjourned.
He owes us that money. He admitted he owed us the money.
I think the judge was absolutely correct.
He promised he was going to pay us the money back.
I don't owe Jerry any money.
Kids are irresponsible, have no sense of honor, duty, respect, responsibility, nothing.
It really should be a family thing, and maybe one day it can go back to it.
This is a great case that explains why a lot of cases in civil court have a statute of limitations before you can bring a certain kind of case, because here it was hard for us to understand why they would not have requested that money back earlier. So when you ask for it now, years down the line where so much has happened, court's not so likely to feed into that because you don't know what the real motivation is behind it.
I agree. I think it's really foolish of them, especially since their ex-son-in-law has total custody of these 2 little boys, for them not to maintain reasonable relationship with him.
It was a good showing, though, that if you do give money to your daughter, son, and their significant other, and they do get divorced, you should follow that divorce proceeding. So if you do have a claim,
a legitimate
debt or claim, then that's the place where you should bring it.
Absolutely.
Lucinda Noble is suing her sister, Tiffany Acuna, for rent and property damage.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 2109, Noble versus Acuna.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Noble, this is your sister.
Yes, ma'am.
Older or younger?
Younger.
Any other siblings?
Many.
How many?
I have 5 sisters and 4 brothers.
And you have kids. How many children do you have?
I have 3 daughters.
How old are they?
18, 15, and almost 12.
And you?
I have 3 children, and they are 10, 5, and 2.
There came a time when, that was in August of 2021, according to your complaint, that you were having some housing difficulties with your children.
No, that's not true.
Well, Miss Noble, what led you to believe that your sister was having some housing difficulty? Because you start your complaint by indicating that she was about to become homeless.
Her house that she was living in was being put up for sale.
So the house that you had been renting.
Correct.
For how long?
About 2 years. I'm not really sure. It was well
It was being
over a year.
sold.
Well, I didn't know that until I gave her my notice after I'd already previously asked my sister if we should move in.
So you approached her about you moving in with her.
Yes, correct.
And do you own your own home, Miss Noble?
I do.
Where you were living there alone with your 3 children?
Yes.
Okay, and how much rent were you paying?
$750.
Now, when you decided to move in with your sister, what rent was discussed?
Well, she had told me about $400 is what she wanted.
Okay, so she said the rent was $400 per month, and that was starting August 1st?
Right.
So this is what part of this case is about. Part of the case is about rent. You lived with your sister from August 1st, 2021 to a date in 2022 when you finally removed all of your property.
Kind of. I did not remove all of my property, but I removed what she allowed me to.
To remove on what date?
I'm going to say it was mid-May, but I'm not sure.
May of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
So we have August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. So between 9 and 10 months. For the 9 or 10 months that you were there, how many times did you pay her $400 in rent? She's going to have a list.
I have a list too of our.
And you have a list. So why don't you take a look at it and give me the exact number of months?
The time I paid her $400 was, I think, only one time. And there was other times I paid her different amounts. But our agreement was because I bought all the groceries, we just kept track on this app, which has a list. I paid way over $400 in total.
Well,
so our agreement had changed.
Just a second.
Okay.
You have an app 10 months. How much did you spend on that app?
12,000 something. It's right in here on the list.
Take a look, because you're going to show it to me.
I paid total $10,411.
Okay, and she?
She total was $11,291.
And that was to cover groceries, food, gas money.
Her phone was under mine.
This is something that I'm going to have to simplify. There came a time when there were issues with regard to you not paying her $400 a month rent. And you discussed it with her, correct? And in what month was that?
April.
It was before April. It was before I had gone on vacation.
What month and year?
December of 2021.
So what I'm reading in December of 2021, you had a dispute about how much you were spending, how much you weren't spending, and that $400 was not being forthcoming just for rent. You see, I can understand that the two of you decided to split bills, everything other than the $400 in rent. You each have 3 children. You're 2 adults. Let's get to December. Was it the beginning or middle of December that you had this discussion about just pay $400 a month and we'll deal with it?
Maybe the middle.
Okay. So we have January, February, March, April, and you moved out in May.
Correct. I was kicked out illegally. Yes.
In May.
Yep.
Left in May. So that's 5 months. It was suggested by your landlord that just give me $400 a month and we'll split groceries.
In April, I have the proof of the text.
Just a second. So we have January, February, March, and April. 4 months. Did you give her $400 a month for those 4 months?
Nope, it was never discussed before. Then I have the proof that it was discussed in April.
I'd like to see it.
Thank you.
It was discussed in April again.
Okay, just a second. I just want to see the proof. Well, show me if you have proof of an earlier conversation.
I don't.
Believe that there was an earlier conversation. Let me see the one that occurred in April.
It was mainly the receipts.
I'm not getting involved with that at all. Right now, you had a place to live with your 3 children for much less than the $750 a month that you were paying at another residence.
Right. And I spent way more on groceries. I did all the groceries.
Whatever. Your children didn't eat more.
Right. And my children didn't live there the full time.
I don't care.
Okay. I'm sorry. Can I look on my phone? It might be faster. Is that okay if I show you the text?
I don't care where you show it to me. Just show it to me.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. So I apologize. Okay. Apologize. Sorry. On April 24th. So if you want, and then you can scroll down because she kind of keeps for a couple days.
Oh, that wasn't an agreement, madam. These were final acts of desperation to get you to pay $400 a month. Here.
That was the first time I'd heard, about her.
Oh, no. That wasn't the first time you heard about it.
Right.
Because the first line is $400 better be under my door.
Right.
So that's not the first time you heard about it.
Right.
That's an act of desperation. Okay, so you had this conversation with her in December, and she was there until May. And according to you, you only paid $400 once. That's $2,000. By the way, how are your children supported?
I work. Well, I work, yes.
Is that a full-time job or a part-time job?
It was part-time.
Well, you don't support yourself and your 3 children with a part-time job. Do you get any child support for them?
I did get child support for 2 of them, yes.
For 2 of them? Mm-hmm. How much child support do you receive?
$300.
$300 a what?
A month.
Do you get any other assistance?
Yes, I had food stamps.
Mm-hmm. Do you still have food stamps?
Yes.
How much a month?
For something. I'm not exactly sure.
And when you bought food for the household, you used the food stamps as well as your other money from your part-time job. And got it, $400. So far, you owe your sister $2,000. That's for back rent. Now, you want to go through the damages that you allege that your sister caused?
Yes. So I had 2 couches, and those went away.
What do you mean both went away? What does that mean?
She got rid of them.
While she was living there? Mm-hmm. And you knew about it? In what month?
It was when I came back from vacation. My things were gone.
I'm not following. You were supposed to be gone for 2 weeks, according to her.
No, I was gone for 3.5 weeks.
You were gone for almost a month. Mm-hmm. She was babysitting for your children.
They don't really need babysat. They're older.
Well, your 12-year-old can't live by herself without a mother for a month.
No.
Okay. And your 18-year-old does what?
She works at a hotel.
So she works during the day or at night?
She didn't at the time. She was at 17 at the time.
You're not going to leave a 17, a 14, and an 11-year-old alone for a month?
Of course not.
Okay, so they were home with your sister?
Yes.
Let's get back to the initial question. I forgot what my question was before I went off on this tangent. Couches.
The couches.
That's where we're at.
Yes.
So you went away for a month, and when you came back, couches were gone.
Couches, like the whole house had transformed into basically her house.
I don't care, basically her house. I want to know what was missing.
So the couches were missing.
Okay, which couches? Couches from where to where?
So the couch from the living room, it was a sectional, and the couch from the basement.
Living room and basement. What happened to those couches?
Oh, they were gone a long time before, and I can prove you a text of her saying that they were gone before I even moved in, actually in August. She knew, and her daughter and her boyfriend helped me load them up and take them to the dump. She, in fact, told me she was getting rid of a lot of old furniture she did not care about. I have pictures.
Just a second. What you have is proof that those two items were disposed of before she went away on vacation.
Way before I moved in.
Okay. Now, Miss Noble, your sister says that she has proof that those two couches were disposed of well before you went away on vacation. If she does, I'm not going to be happy with you. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. Were those two couches gone before you went on vacation?
I can't recall, but I believe she wanted to make room for her furniture.
Just a second. Were those two couches gone before you went on vacation for a month?
I know the basement couch wasn't.
Okay. I think you're full of baloney.
She started giving my niece video games, movies, my food storage containers. She was just giving my things away.
Okay. I went to graduate school after I finished with high school for 9.
Lucinda Noble claims her sister, Tiffany Acuna, owes for rent and property damage. Tiffany is countersuing for an illegal lockout and filing a false CPS report.
Okay, let's go. Property taken without permission. What property did she take without your permission?
Okay, so
how far she owes you for rent?
The TV stand, she broke it and threw it under the trampoline.
What's next?
The weed trimmer. She took that. She started giving my niece my belongings while I was gone. She started giving my niece video games, movies, my food storage containers. She was just giving my things away.
Okay, she owes you for rent. I went to graduate school after I finished with high school for 9 years. I'm not dealing with Tupperware. So far, she owes you $2,000 for rent.
Okay, and then there was also the wall damage, the windows, the blinds,
just
the
a second. Just a second. What wall damage and where?
The wall damage is from the room that she was staying in and the room that her boys were staying in.
May I see the damage that you're referring to?
Here's the one more of that, and then here's the blinds, and this was damages from her cat.
Well, this I can't see at all. Okay, so that I can't see at all. And if you're talking about nail holes, I'm not interested in nail holes where there were pictures, putting them up. I don't know what this is a picture of. Tell me.
That's where her cat clawed up the carpet to get into her room.
Did you replace the carpet?
Not yet.
Do you have an estimate for replacing or patching that carpet?
They don't make that carpet anymore.
Okay, I don't know that. How did these blinds get broken?
I'm not sure. Are those the ones that were in my bedroom or the kids' bedroom? I really don't know, to be honest. But I do feel like I remember them being broken, but I just don't remember if they were broken when I already moved in or not. I really don't know, ma'am. I mean, honestly, I knew they were broken. It's like I'm remembering, but the house, like I said, was not in a good condition when I moved in.
Okay, I'm not talking about the rest of the house.
My daughter is actually, Tiffany told her that she knew they were.
She doesn't remember. You tell me that these blinds were in good condition before she and her family moved in.
Yes.
She says she doesn't remember. I have to rely on what you say to me because that's not ordinary wear and tear.
No.
Do you have a bill for new blinds?
From Lowe's, I have the estimate of what it will cost to replace them.
Okay, I'd like to see it. You do have a cat?
Yes, I have one cat.
Okay.
She has multiple.
So we're talking about $47.98.
Times 2.
Okay. Anything else? Any other?
For 2 blinds.
I only see one.
No, those are 2 different windows.
Oh, times 2. You're right. Anything else?
I have to remove the junk that she left at my house.
I was not allowed at her house.
What else?
That's
okay. If you have to think that hard, then we're finished. We're moving over to the countersuit. Okay. Counterclaim is for an illegal lockout. Okay, let me run through this illegal lockout and dispose of it quickly. The illegal lockout that you're referring to happened when your sister, who shouldn't have, took the door off your bedroom.
Correct.
She says she took the door off your bedroom because you weren't paying close enough attention to your children.
Correct.
And I assume she's talking about the 2-year-old.
Correct.
And when she took the door off your bedroom, you called the police.
Right, yep. I called the police. I have the incident report.
Yes, you called the police, and the police came, and when the police came on, do we have the date?
26 April.
The police arrived, and they told her she couldn't lock the door, and you were let in.
Correct.
Okay, so not egregious enough for me to have to deal with 2 sisters fighting. But the other part of your claim is that your sister filed a false CPS report.
Right.
And first, how do you know a CPS report was called in?
Well, they called me. Real quick.
Child Protective Services.
Right, they did call me. But first, I actually had the phone call from my sister, my witness, who's here right now, because she had pre-warned me because she had gotten the phone call from this sister saying, Lucy is going to call on you.
Okay. Do you want to step up?
Sure.
Tell me your name.
My name's Stephanie Aslett. I'm the older sister from these two. Yeah.
When did you have a conversation with Miss Noble about the defendant's children?
The same night that the cops were called. Tiffany had called me because Lucy's daughter had crawled through the window and opened the door.
So you spoke to Lucinda?
Yes.
On April 26th?
Yes.
Did you call her or did she call you?
She had called me because she wanted to let me know that the cops had been
Do you
called.
recall that conversation?
Yes, I do.
Okay, tell me about the conversation.
She called to let me know that she was letting me know that since I was the only one probably capable or in this position to take on a child, if CPS was involved, because the 2-year-old would not be able to go to his father. He was in prison at the time. And I was like, why are you calling and telling me this? Tiffany's a good mom. What's going on? And she goes, no, she's not. I've already called CPS and forewarned them that this is happening. She needs to be taken care of.
What's happening?
Apparently there was lice on her daughter when she was at her father's house, and the 2-year-old, apparently he was running around with a wet diaper.
Who was taken to their father's house?
The daughter that had the lice was...
The daughter was the 5-year-old?
Yes. And
okay, not the 2-year-old.
Yeah. She supposedly had lice while she was at her dad's.
Went to her father's, and that was sometime in April. Is that correct?
Yes.
And got head lice.
Well, he had told me. I wasn't for sure, but I'd let my sister know just in case that she may have lice. Let's check the girls.
Okay. And your sister was home at the time?
Well, no, she was never home. Everything was over text message.
Just a second. Was that when she was away?
She was not staying at the house. She was not at the residence. She was staying at her boyfriend's house that was there.
Lucinda was staying at her boyfriend's house?
Yes.
Okay. And that's on the 26th?
Yes.
Is that after the police were called?
That was prior to. Supposedly the lice was prior to, and that's why she had called them prior to that night. And she was letting me know that she had called them and that I needed to be prepared to take on a 2-year-old.
What did you tell her?
I asked her why she would call them, what was going on, and I said, this is ridiculous. You know that this is ridiculous? And she goes, no, it's justified. And I said, I don't understand.
Did she tell you why?
Yeah, she tried to tell me that...
well, tell me exactly what she said to you. Why is this justified?
She made the comment that
so she called
Tiffany has
you,
not been there.
Okay, you had to ask her
My words
why.
to her were, how do you know this when you're never there?
And she said?
I just know.
And gave you no more specifics?
No.
Okay, you want to tell me about that conversation?
I never said I was calling CPS. I said someone will. I know the person who did. It wasn't me.
Okay, well...
But I knew it was going to be happening.
Okay, Stephanie, let's get clear, okay? When you spoke to Lucinda and she said to you, in effect, are you prepared to take on a 2-year-old? Did she tell you that someone was calling CPS?
No, she did not. She said that she would be the one calling and that she has already contacted them because of the situation at her home.
Okay. Now, assuming you and your sister lived alone together, whether you spent time with your boyfriend, I know you have older kids, but you were away. When you were away for that month, were you staying with your boyfriend?
Yes.
Okay. And you left your kids alone, correct?
With my sister.
With your sister. Now, why would you feel comfortable about leaving your own children with your sister if you felt that she neglected her own children?
They didn't need the amount of care that a 2-year-old does.
Are you telling me that a 15-year-old doesn't need a lot of care and watching these days? Or a 12-year-old or an 11-year-old doesn't need a lot of watching and supervising? Is that what you're suggesting to me?
Not as much as a 2-year-old.
Well, one is a physical watching to make sure that it eats and drinks and is bathed periodically. The other two are far more difficult. You got to have eyes all over the place to watch a 15-year-old and an 11-year-old. Got to have your eyes on their computer. You've got to have your eyes on their iPad. You have to have your eyes on their schooling, on their homework, on their everything else. You take a month to go off with your boyfriend. That, to me, is not participating with your children, especially since you suggest that your sister, with whom you left your children, was neglecting her own children.
Your Honor, I would just like to say that I was reaching out to her a lot of the time, too, where I would get 1 week there was nothing. She said, I'm sorry, I had no Wi-Fi. Her children were skipping school. They were not listening to me. They would not do their work.
Do I need you to reinforce what I just said?
Right.
I don't need you to reinforce what I just said. You would have had a history with methamphetamines. You refused to meet with caseworkers, according to the report you gave me.
I have other reports, too, if I may, please.
Lucinda Noble is accusing her sister, Tiffany Acuna, of refusing to pay for rent. Tiffany claims Lucinda wrongfully reported her to Child Protective Services.
Now, you have something you want to say?
Many things, actually.
Well, many things. I don't want many things. What I want, stand up. What I want to know is you're her daughter.
Yes.
Your first name?
Anna Noble.
Anna, what do you do?
I work front desk at a hotel.
Graduate from high school?
No.
Why?
I was pulled out and moved to Missouri.
Pulled out by whom? By your mother?
Yeah.
And when your mother pulled you out, how old were you?
17.
Had you been going to school before?
Yes.
In what jurisdiction?
It was an alternative school.
When you say an alternative school, what kind of an alternative school?
For troubled youth.
Tell me about your trouble. Was it behavior trouble? Because you seem
many things. I was a very wild teenager.
Until when were you a wild teenager?
Until I sent her to live with her dad.
I didn't ask you any questions. So now you can sit down.
Okay.
I'm not going into anything else. Lucinda, so far you went away for a month with your boyfriend, leaving your 3 children, who you say don't need supervision. How long were you home before you took the door off her bedroom?
I got back from vacation in February, early February, and the door was removed in April for a few hours.
Okay. Do you have any proof other than this conversation that the plaintiff called CPS?
I believe it is proof. Just the thing that was reported is something she would only know. Would that be considered proof?
Well,
okay.
Let me hear what was reported.
It was reported that I would not treat my child with lice. That was what the CPS report was, and it was unsubstantiated, and I have that all proof.
Okay. When your 5-year-old went to her father, she went to visit with her father, and children do get head lice. It happens periodically. Lots of children who go to school, who interact with other children, come home and they get head lice. I've had a lot of children, a lot of grandchildren, and it happens. And you usually treat it. I assume that her father did not treat it. Is that
he did
right?
treat it. He told me. He told me immediately.
No. So he treated it. So how do you know that the head lice was the nature of the complaint?
That's what was on the report.
May I see it? Your children weren't removed, except for your boy.
My one son, and then that lady.
And then returned.
All 3.
Oh, yeah.
All 3 kids were taken.
That's it.
Okay. There you go, sir.
Okay. You had a prior history with Child Protective Services.
Which I was unaware.
That's either a yes or a no.
Yep, yes.
And during the course of those prior proceedings, which were relatively current Child Protective proceedings, because that was in 2021, you were clearly drug tested by the Department of Social Services or Child Protective Services.
In 2018 or 19. This was at my doctor's prior when I was, and they reported it that I had failed one of my tests.
And at that time, you had an open case and you tested positive for serious drugs.
Right.
Very serious drugs. And this says that while under the influence of those drugs, you drove your children to the doctor's office while under the influence.
Right.
That's the report.
Right.
Okay. These reports all seem to indicate that they tried to see you, but you kept canceling appointments with them and were a no-show.
Well,
okay, that's what this report says.
Right.
You gave me the report.
Right.
So let me understand this. After coming in and making an assessment, Child Protective Services determined to file a petition on behalf of your youngest child. Yes, they did.
Okay, yeah.
Well, after everything I read there, I think that was probably a good idea. I don't know what happened with that. I assume that the petition was ultimately dismissed if you have your children back with you.
Right
Do you
away.
have your children back with you?
Yeah, right away, as soon as I went to court that day.
That's okay. They determined, after they spoke to you, and irrespective of either her motivation or anybody acting on her behalf, or somebody that she knew, or her, called Child Protective Services. The question that I'm presented with, was there a basis for concern about your children?
No.
And based upon the reports that I've read here, and those are reports that you gave me,
Right.
that those serious questions about what was going on with the young children in your house deserved a second look. You had had a history with methamphetamines. You had a serious weight loss. You refused to meet with caseworkers, according to the report you gave me.
I have other reports, too, if I may, please.
Thank you. I'm not finished.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Because if you've been in family court, as I was for 25 years, often incidents are called in of suspected child abuse and neglect. A caseworker goes out, takes a look, and says, I'll continue to watch it, but I don't have to file a case. It hasn't reached the level where I think that I should file a case and remove a child. In this case, Child Protective Services came and tried to do an investigation, which, according to the worker, you evaded. You missed appointments, you rescheduled, you didn't show up.
One time.
And then, not one time, they also had a prior history of you involving drugs, involving driving your children under the influence of drugs. Recent history. Didn't happen 20 years ago. If it happened 2019, this says 21. If it happened 2019 or 2020, that's still recent history.
Okay.
So whoever called, it was worth, according to this caseworker, they had sufficient information based upon what they saw and what they knew to remove the 2-year-old. So that part of your case is dismissed, which is the only part of your counterclaim that I was really entertaining. You owe your sister $2,096, $2,000 for rent and $48 for, I forget what it was, blinds. Thank you. We're done.
My
This court is
property?
adjourned. We're done.
I had drug tested every month during the time that this happened, and it was like an oopsie under my doctor's supervision.
I just helped her, and she takes advantage and takes advantage.
You don't call CPS on your sister when you're the one that took off to Africa for 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
And this whole thing wasn't about money. It just, I needed someone to tell her, look, you can't take advantage of people anymore.
She's still the outcast that everyone's upset with.
I'm not the outcast, though, but I'm definitely not helping her anymore.
So we've seen it a lot here, claims for unsubstantiated CPS reports being filed and people seeking damages for that. So I'm just wondering, do you think there was a basis? Is that why, obviously, you didn't rule in her favor on the claim of the false CPS report? So there must have been something in there that...
When people use Child Protective Services as a retaliation for other behavior, that's always abhorrent. But there are some situations where CPS may be called because someone knows that there is an abuse or neglect and has not done it until the other person irritates them. Well, that's not a false CPS report. Maybe motivated by something else, but that's not a false report. And so, in this case, the defendant had a history with CPS, current history with CPS that was relatively serious. Well, then it was a good thing that CPS went.
Because that would be basis itself.
It's
for
basis
the claim.
itself. Yeah, basis itself.
That alone. And just because she was cleared at the end of the day and has her children back now doesn't mean that it was an unsubstantiated claim.
Oh, no. They're watching. Yeah. They're watching. And they should be watching. I don't think any of them are bargains. The 18-year-old daughter who was here, who was a troubled child, according to her, and never graduated from high school, although she's working, because her mother moved her around also a lot, was certainly an inadequate caretaker for the other 2 younger children. She goes off for a month with her boyfriend. It's amazing how some children just grow up by themselves. Sometimes it works out okay. I don't know, somehow I felt sorry for all of those kids, that they're not getting all the loving and nurturing that they should.
Hopefully, maybe after today, she turns it around.
Maybe.
Brooke Batiste is suing her ex-roommate, Adrian Carter, for property damage, breaking a lease, and a dog attack.
Court coming to order. All rise.
Be seated, everyone.
Hello, Judge. Case 2080, Batiste versus Carter.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Batiste, you and Miss Carter were roommates.
Yes, ma'am.
From when to when?
From October 7th to April 1st. Actually, May.
And it is your claim that Miss Carter vandalized certain property of yours.
Yes, Your Honor.
Most specifically, a very expensive couch.
Yes, Your Honor.
Because you had an argument, and that during the course of this argument, her dog bit you.
Yes, Your Honor.
And for breaching the lease, because she left.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, but it was a good thing that she left, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You were happy that she left. Her dog bit you. She vandalized
Right,
the sofa. You were very happy that
she left. Yeah.
You were very happy. So we're going to eliminate that breach of the lease part.
No.
Oh yes, we're going to eliminate the breach of the lease part because you were happy that she left.
I didn't want her to live in the same situation as her, but being that the rent was so expensive, it wouldn't have been my best interest for her to leave.
It's with her to stay with her dog that bit you.
Right.
I mean, I don't want you to sound ridiculous to me, okay?
Right.
All right, let's not sound ridiculous to me. Normal person, if they were bitten by their roommate's dog, and if their roommate vandalized their property, that roommate would be happy to see them go.
But I'm not happy with the expensive rent by myself.
Well, of course, but your choice would be staying with her and her dog that bit you.
But if her name's on the lease...
Just a second. That's between her and the landlord. I just told you, I'm sticking with vandalizing and dog bite. So tell me when this dog bite took place.
It's on March 29th.
What kind of dog was it, by the way?
It was a Belgian Malinois.
What do they look like?
It looks like a German Shepherd.
Is that what you have, Miss Carter? A Belgian
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor. A Belgian Malinois, like a police dog.
So it looks like a German Shepherd?
Yes, ma'am.
So it's a large dog?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you moved in together, you moved in with the dog?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So tell me what happened March 29th.
Okay, so before March 29th, Adrian and I got in a petty argument. It was dumb. We made up. In the argument, she confessed to me that...
No, just a minute. You engaged in a petty argument, and then you made up.
Yes.
And the petty argument was on what date?
It was on the March 27th.
And you made up?
Yes.
Okay. On the 27th, what were you arguing about?
My dog tore up the carpet, and she sent this long paragraph, and we were just going back and forth, and we realized it was dumb, so we decided to drop it. And that's when she confessed to...
On the 27th?
Yes, ma'am.
So you were arguing about the dog, and then on the 27th, after you were over the argument about the dog, is that what you're telling me? Be very careful.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
She confessed that she gave the guy that I was seeing a lap dance.
And?
And I immediately cut all ties with her.
So you cut all ties with her how?
I stopped speaking to her.
Even though you were roommates?
Yes.
Okay.
After I stopped talking to her, social media posts were made.
By whom?
Adrian.
Okay. Social media posts were made. Do you have those?
No, I do not.
Do you have those?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Why don't you have them if this is your case?
They erased, but I have other things that I think you would want to see.
I'm going in order. This is a case, so don't try to creep into my mind. Even say in your complaint a couple of days later there were things posted on social media. And is what you're telling me that they were erased?
Right. I didn't save anything that she posted.
Oh, never mind. I don't have to see anything, correct?
Correct.
So you didn't save anything?
No, ma'am.
Then you have no evidence of anything that happened
So
later.
I saw that she had no remorse for what she did. Then I made social media posts. Adrian was mad that I made social media posts. So the next morning, she's yelling at the top of her lungs at 10 in the morning. I wake up to see what she's yelling about. And she's just saying how and I shouldn't have posted what I posted. And we were just arguing about the situation. And I asked, how could she do this to me? It was a very heated argument. She was yelling at the top of her lungs. I was yelling at the top of my lungs. During the argument, her dog is whoo, going crazy. And while we were arguing, we were pretty close. The dog bit me, and I said, you need to get your dog. She said, no, your dog's good. And we continued to argue. The dog came to bite me again, and that's when I grabbed what was behind me, which was a paper towel holder, and I chucked it at the dog.
So the dog bit you on the arm?
Yes, ma'am, twice.
Okay. I would like to see a medical report on that.
Okay. All right, I have a photo of the bite, the antibiotics, and then this is the report.
Would you show this to Miss Carter, please?
Your Honor, I know she has a video of the entire incident, if you'd rather.
It's not her obligation to prove your case, as my law clerk so aptly told me the last case. Not her obligation, it's your obligation. Okay. So, go ahead.
After her dog bit me, I immediately grabbed my dog and I go to the hospital. I filled out
What kind of dog do you have?
I have a Doberman.
Where was your Doberman when this was going on?
He was in the cage and he's still a baby as well. So I went to the hospital, got treated. While I was at the hospital, Adrian called the police and she said that I attacked her dog.
Don't tell me what she said to the police unless you have a police report.
Yes, ma'am, I have a police report.
Then I'd like to see the police report. That's an official business record.
So this is the first police report for the dog bite.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so April 19th, this day, Adrian knocked on my door.
No, April 19th? We're at April 19th. I thought you moved out on April 1st.
No, she moved out on April 19th.
So is what you're saying after all this altercation, she moved out?
Yes, ma'am.
And stayed in the apartment with her dog from the 29th to April 19th?
Yes, ma'am. And I went to a friend's house the day the dog bit me, and then I went home for a week, and then that's when I came back, and this second incident happened.
So after the dog bit you, you did not go home. You took your dog and left.
Yes, ma'am.
And stayed at whose house for a week?
I stayed at a friend that lives an hour away from my current apartment.
On what date did you return?
So I stayed one night at a friend's house, and then I returned, and then I went home for a week. So
when you went, stop playing with papers.
Yes, Your Honor.
When you went home for the day, was the defendant at home?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have any conversations with her?
No, ma'am.
Just stayed out of her way and packed a few things and left?
Yes, ma'am.
And you went to stay?
At home in Alabama.
With your family?
Yes, ma'am. Until things cooled down, basically.
Okay, and when did you go back?
I went back, I believe, April 17th.
And what happened when you went back on the 17th?
A few days later, April 19th, Adrian was knocking on my door at 9 a.m. in the morning saying that I need to come to the leasing office because there's a new roommate here. I told her no, and then that's when she started threatening me and calling me all these kinds of names. So I take my dog again, I go outside, and I call an officer, and that's also when I called my mom, and she convinced me to go up there to speak with the new roommate to see, who they were.
What new roommates? Just a second.
She tried to get 2 young girls to replace her on the lease.
And it was unsatisfactory?
Yes, ma'am.
So far,
Correct.
I have a dog bite and
yes, ma'am.
Couch.
So after I said no to the 2 roommates, one didn't have a job, they looked young, I said no. I went back home. 10 minutes later, Adrian...
Home? You mean to your folks'
To our
house?
apartment.
Oh, to your apartment.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So 10 minutes later, Adrian comes in. I was in the room with my door locked. I hear Adrian yelling. I hear her throwing things. She's saying, I can't believe you did that. You really just did that. I don't care. I'm still moving out. I'm still leaving. I'm not paying rent. Blah, blah, blah. I didn't come out the room because last time it got crazy, so I just said I would let her do what she does, and I will let the authorities handle it.
She did come out the room, Your Honor.
When I finally came out the room, which I have a video, and came out, she had moved the couch in front of the door so I couldn't get out of my room. And
how did you get out?
I jumped over it. And the trash can was flipped upside down. I have pictures of all the damage that she did to the house and videos.
Well, I'd like to see them, please. And I would like to see the damage to the couch, which is your major complaint.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the damages, and then I have a video of the entire incident right here.
Brooke Batiste claims her ex-roommate, Adrian Carter, owes for couch damage and a dog attack.
By the way, did you have any unreimbursed medical bills as a result of this dog bite? That's either a yes or a no.
No, ma'am.
When did you purchase this couch?
I purchased it the day we moved in, so it was October 7th.
How much did you pay for it?
I paid $2,200 in total, and Adrian and I were paying on it a little bit in the beginning, but there came a time where we had to make the final payment on it, which was $1,200. When we had the argument, she didn't pay anything, so I had to pay it all by myself, and the couch is in my name.
Did the couch remain?
Yes, ma'am. The couch is at the house.
What does it look like now?
It's black, but there's it's an odor coming from the couch, and there's some stains on it.
Do you have a picture of it, what it looks like now?
No, ma'am. I just have the pictures that I gave you.
Okay, but you're still using the sofa.
I
The answer
it's
is...
a smell. No, ma'am. I don't sit on it anymore because it's a smell.
So why don't you get rid of it out of the apartment?
I'm moving October 6th, and that's when I plan to get rid of it.
But you've been using it since April.
It's just been sitting there, Your Honor. I haven't had
sitting
time.
in your apartment since April.
Yes, ma'am.
April, May,
I just haven't made the time to get rid of it because I know I'm moving soon, and that's when I plan to get rid of it.
I wouldn't keep something in my house that smelled.
I work a lot, and
Would you please show this to the defendant? Want to tell me how that happened?
I did put chips and like items that wasn't wet on the couch out of anger. I shouldn't have did it, but I did do it. And I didn't put liquid on it or anything. Literally,
That's not true, Your Honor.
Don't speak.
You can
No.
get a napkin and wipe it off. But that's my couch too. Maybe I didn't pay the whole thing on it, but I've made payments on that couch, and I decided not to do that full payment that she did, which was $600, because she was irresponsible and decided to rent a couch and found out that that couch was whatever amount. I made payments on that couch, and I have proof for it.
That's okay. You had no right to even attempt to destroy it.
At all.
At all. You had no right to do that.
Right.
Because that devalued the sofa.
I agree.
Okay, good. Okay. I'm actually finished with you.
Your Honor, can we please go back over the lease portion of this?
No.
Can my mom speak about what happened?
No, I said no. When there's that kind of acrimony, I actually think that before somebody gets seriously injured, when you have two large dogs and two people with hot tempers that can do this, it's a very, very good thing that they no longer live together.
Being stuck with a rent and...
Just a second. I've just answered you. This is not a back and forth.
Yes, ma'am.
On the dog bite, I am awarding you $1,000. It looks as if part of it was a black and blue mark. Certainly, I can't blame the dog for trying to protect its owner, but she's supposed to have control of her dog all the time.
And she shouldn't start arguing.
This is not a tea dance. I'm not asking you anything. And I'm awarding you $1,200 for the sofa. That's $2,200. Judgment for the plaintiff. We're finished. Thank you very much.
Court is adjourned.
She just did something messed up, and I cut her off, and she didn't like it.
I literally cut her off. She's just mad that she's cut off.
She's delusional. She's delusional.
She's childish. She's irresponsible, and I was just sick of dealing with someone draining.
Just don't get roommates with your friends. Just move in by yourself.
I'm happy.
You had a question about the lease.
I did. So I agree that it was best for the acrimonious situation for them to separate and not to live there. So I understand your judgment saying it was better for you. You got the good end of the stick on that she left. However, the law, if you breach a lease, she did get stuck with a higher portion of rent because her roommate, although a negative situation that should have probably ended right when it did, she was stuck paying her half as well. So I thought you should have at least heard her claim on the breach of a lease, because then anyone could just say, oh, well, I don't like the situation and I feel like leaving would be a better thing, and stick their roommate with their portion of the rent. And that's not what the law says.
Well, that's true, except that this wasn't just a situation where parties weren't getting along. There's no question that she was nipped by the defendant's dog. Well, I wouldn't want to stay in that situation anyway.
Well, that would give her the right to maybe leave without paying her half of the rent, but that's not what happened.
It's also sort of acknowledged that the defendant brought two other people to take over her piece of rent. And it was in the papers, and the plaintiff did not...
She did say that she was the one that said no.
She said, I don't want those two people. Well, then the onus really falls on her to mitigate her damages. And she had no proof that she went forward to try to get another roommate. Between the two of them, they may have had an agreement, but the dispute over rent really is the defendants and the landlords. She doesn't pay her rent, and if the plaintiff pays her half of the rent, the landlord is free to go against either or both of them.
Sure, because both their names were on
the lease.
Understood.
Hello mọi người, chào mừng mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Hôm nay thì mình sẽ tô màu cho bức tranh về cô nàng này. Mọi người hãy cùng mình đồng hành để xem là mình sẽ tô màu cho trong bức tranh này như thế nào nhé. Đầu tiên là mình sẽ tô màu cho hai chiếc kính trước nha. tóc thì mình sẽ tô màu vàng nha. Bây giờ thì mình sẽ tô màu cho chiếc áo nha. Như vậy là bức tranh hôm nay mình cũng đã tô màu xong rồi. Cảm ơn các bạn đã cùng mình theo dõi video này. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại các bạn ở những video tiếp theo của mình nhé.